This is the Original Firefighter Podcast, where we talk about anything you would talk about at the firehouse kitchen table. And sometimes we even talk about fighting fires. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Original Firefighter Podcast. I am your host, Will Peterson, and we have a great show for you today. It's great in many ways. First of all, this studio today is filled with great people, and we will introduce the guests that are in the room with me today. We have a very specific conversation to be had that ties into an event that happened on August 8th of 2022. So we're going to be very intentional about today's episode and what you can take away from it. But before we get into all that, I want to welcome to the show Erica Miller, Chad Callison, and Joel Bradford. Thank you for being on the show. How are you guys all doing today?
Absolutely. Doing good. Thank you.
Glad to hear.
Before we were, guys, we were kind of getting ourselves ready here. Erica was like, why do we have to wear the headsets the whole time? And it's so we can hear one another pretty well. So what do you guys think about being here in the studio today? We talked about how quick it came together.
It came together real fast.
Real fast. That probably helped because it didn't give everybody a chance to either back out or get nervous too
reconsider.
much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it did. And actually, some of the things that I kind of recall in the last few weeks, or maybe the last couple of months, it really got down to a place where we went to the stag. We went to the retirement dinner that we just you and I participated in.
Yeah.
And that you got yours next year, right?
I do next year.
Yeah. Joel, you got a
couple more years.
A few more years
but
to go.
I was there cooking.
You were, as you've done many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're. So the stag is basically Rockford Local 413's way of honoring the retirees, and sort of kind of like that last meal, big meal together, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
So we just went through that, and Erica, I gotta kind of just say it like it is. Your speech right out of the gate really did set the tone for the evening.
Yeah.
And I did. I sat there, I listened to what you had to say, and I'll just, again, I'm going to speak from the heart and be honest about it, that it really made whatever I had to say just seem insignificant in a good way.
Sure.
Like what you had to say was that significant.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So
well, I appreciate that.
It was just sort of that feeling, and then coming out of that and going, all right, we need to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go around the room, Erica, you were that day on August 8th, or August 7th.
Yeah.
And, perspective is, but you, how many years did you have on the Rockford Fire Department?
At that time, I think...
Or in total, how many years did you give?
20 on Rockford, and then I had 5 years prior service. So I spent 25 years in the fire service.
In the fire service.
Yeah.
And 20 of them with Rockford.
Yeah.
And when you retired, you were a driver engineer.
Yep.
Okay. And then Chad, how many years you got in the fire service?
For Rockford Fire, I retired at 20, which would have been March of this year. So I recently retired, so hence the facial hair.
Yeah.
But prior to that, my background was, I would call it extensive. Went into the military as a medic to try and get some college money to be a chiropractor. Well, that never worked out, because once I got into the medical field, that's it. So that was in 89. After I got out of the military in 91, then I ended up going to a local private ambulance service to get some time and get my paramedic license. In the meantime, I was also getting my nursing license. So past history on me was a flight nurse for 23 years, and then I was on Rockford Fire for 20 years. But prior to that, I was on a volunteer for 10 years as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of time.
So overall, give me a number there.
What are we at? 35, 36 years?
36 years?
Yeah.
36 years.
Means you're old.
Yeah. Well, when he grew the beard, and it's like, it all came in white.
It is weird, huh? Weird.
So say 35 years.
Yeah, at least.
What's cool is that we were Original Firefighter was at FDIC this year in Indianapolis, and then Chad was able to stop by our booth, and he got on the show with us for, we had probably 20, 25 minute conversations. His AED essential stock went up through the roof.
It did.
He sold a bunch of monitors the next day.
Now I can retire from that as
Yeah.
well.
He's like, I can write this off as a work trip. And then Joel Bradford, and you retired as a driver engineer, Chad.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct.
And then Joel.
Correct.
I'm
yeah.
the only one at this table now that's still on the job.
Right.
But I'm in my 20th year now with Rockford. I was a volunteer for about 10 years prior to that, so coming up on close to 30 years doing this.
Yeah.
Are you thinking 20 years and out? You still got
I still got a daughter at home right now that's going to finish up her last couple of years in school, so probably once that's done and she gets her own insurance, then I'm probably heading out then. So
Yeah. So again, 20 years right now, RFD, and then
10
anything
years.
else? And then
yeah,
another
10 years volunteering before that, so
man.
30, close to 30 years there.
It's a lot of years.
So collectively, because, as we go around, right, and just sort of, and maybe we don't need to be exact on the day, but we have over 100 years of experience in the fire service sitting in this room right now.
right.
A century.
A century.
So we're all old.
Dang.
I know.
We are old.
And we look at
You got to quit saying that. You got to quit saying that, Joel.
Okay, that was my last one.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it's not.
So, yeah, that was kind of the way I wanted to, start things off as we work through the conversation today, is just to sort of to show that to our listeners and viewers that sitting in this room right now is over 100 years of fire service experience. And I say that very, very diligently and directly, which is, it's not just the fire service that we've all been a part of. It's been fire, EMS, rescue, everything that Rockford, Illinois could throw at us. And Rockford, the city itself throws a lot at you, does it
Man.
not?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything and everything.
A lot.
Over the years, you don't have to get into the exact event or other type of incident calls that you've been on, because we've been on just literally hundreds,
Yeah.
if not thousands of different situations. One of the things, from my perspective, when I look back at my career, it sort of started to really kind of bother me as I was a district chief or battalion chief, for those listening and viewing, is that I got to a place where I'm like, how am I going to so many shootings and fatality murder type situations? It's almost like creeping up on the amount of fire activity that I was going to.
Oh, for
It
sure.
really started to kind of get
It
at me.
outweighs that, yeah.
That was sort of something that I took away, good or bad. It's not, it's just part of the job. I'm not bitching.
Yeah.
It's just something I was extremely aware of. And it started to really escalate as I was getting more and more interactions with companies that were calling, to say, yeah, hey, we went to another scene and there was a gun on the scene, and there was a gun taken from a person that we were putting in the back of our ambulance. And it just kept over and over, these violent calls that we were going on. And I started to really, take a very active concern of what was going on with our department at that time. Is there anything that you guys reflect on that started to kind of grind on you over the years that you were putting in?
I think for me, one of the harder things, whether it is a child abuse call or, like you said, those, murders and shootings and stabbings, is humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Humanity.
It's a good word.
It's hard sometimes to comprehend what another human can do to someone else, and especially those children cases, those can get to you
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joel, anything come to?
Well, I think I'd piggyback off like what Erica said, just the lack of humanity with people now. It just seems like, like you said, we go on so many shootings, it just becomes second nature. It's like, oh, we got another one.
Yeah.
You just don't, you almost become numb to it.
Yes.
Essentially. So
Does it kind of makes you a little concerned that you start becoming unfazed by it?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you do. Mm-hmm. It just becomes another thing you do.
Yeah.
It's like it's normalized.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
messed up is that?
Yeah.
I mean, even
It's normalized for us.
even a couple of years ago, and I was down at Station 2, New Year's Eve, Station 2 got hit by gunfire.
The actual station, right? Yeah, exactly.
And we were all inside and heard the thump and knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But we all laughed about it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, station got hit by gunfire.
Yeah. We were all, this was back in 2009. I was just brand new lieutenant at Engine 1 on Woodlawn, and we were all in the kitchen. It was that morning time when everyone's, you got the truck chores done, you got the station chores done, whatever, and then you're gathered in the kitchen to watch one guy cook for 12 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It's always fun. And then, and then gunfire. Right outside how they have the big windows that are on that alleyway drive.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we just heard such close gunfire in rapid succession.
Yeah.
And we all just hit the floor.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
like one guy.
There had to be a couple people that went to the window to look out and see.
Oh,
Yeah.
The Midwest looking at
the new guy.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
The new guy. What's that? Firecrackers? And we do, apologies a little bit that we paint this dark picture of what Rockford can be like, but it can be this way.
Yeah.
It's got very nice features to it. I mean, I've been on the show here several times bragging about what Rockford has done in the last, say 30 years that I've been around, where there's been a transformation of sorts, in some areas. Lots of areas look exactly the same when I moved here in 1996.
Right.
But some, there's areas that look a lot better, and there's a lot of effort to try to make the city a better place. But the people that are sitting in the studio right now, you guys have seen a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And it's just something I acknowledge. Anything come to your mind, Chad?
I just think, day after day of doing what we do, unfortunately, depending on what station you're at, but a lot of the areas that you go into, it's normal life for them. Like you said, it's normal life for them. But these kids, a lot of the kids haven't had a experience of growing up. What it'd be like to be somewhere where you can see the stars at night and enjoy quiet, or have clean clothes to wear, or have shoes to put on your feet. And you wonder if they're ever going to get out of that situation, have a chance, because they grow up thinking this is the way life is, and it's not. So that's going home after the day. When I go home, and I think all of us can sit here and say that we, have a pretty stable environment for our kids, but I don't think many of the kids don't.
So what you end up seeing on the job makes you appreciate what you've got in your life personally.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no kidding. So, that's just kind of like a feel of what it's like to work for the Rockford Fire Department. And if, those that are on the job currently, what you're doing out there, you're running and gunning, if you will. I like to say it that way. If you're from the outside area and you're on your own fire department, or you're on your own rescue unit or medical squad, we know that many firefighters and police officers and paramedics are getting their butts kicked out there in the streets. I mean, this fire and EMS in America is bonkers. The 911 system is, just going crazy all the time. But, if you want to see some action, this is the place to be.
Absolutely.
For sure, right?
Oh,
And that's,
no doubt
that's
about
why
it.
If that's what
just
your
about
drive is.
everybody.
Well, that was my drive.
Yeah.
When I was young, I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
It was Rockford Fire.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
I want to go fight fire, and that's where you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Being young and new in this profession, I thought I was going to go to Rockford and fight fire every day.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to spend 85% of my time on medical calls.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah.
Are you though shocked at how much fire you actually end up seeing here at the same time?
I don't think I was shocked.
Okay.
Like I was expecting it, but I also came from a very small department in Byron. So where we never saw a fire.
Right.
I shouldn't say never. We did, but very
Rarely,
few and far
yeah.
between. So in the beginning for me, it wasn't shocking. Like this is what I expected.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it was my first day on company. We had 2 first-in fires.
Right.
So it was like, oh, wow, this is going to be real interesting around here.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And you'll go through a lull every now and then. You'll be like, man, I haven't had a fire in a while, and then all of a sudden it'll pop off, and just you'll have 2, 3, 4, 5 fires in a shift or whatever. Not in one shift, but maybe like spread out over 2 or 3 shifts.
And depending on what station you go to.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. I remember a few years ago, before I retired, I did a 2 time trades, and at Station 1, Ladder 1.
Right.
First shift went by, nothing. Second shift went by, and I'm like, what is happening? We have to get a fire. Well, it was 5 a.m, and we got a fire that was rocking and rolling, and actually lost 2 people in that fire.
Right.
Yeah, but I knew it was coming. I mean, I can't spend 48 hours at Ladder
Station
1
1.
without nothing.
Right.
I mean, it was down to the wire,
Right,
but it finally
right.
came in, you
Yeah.
know. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
ended up not being great, obviously, but, it was fire.
That reminds me of just a story quick, is that my last day as a lieutenant, before I made captain, I think I was with Mindy Keene.
Yeah.
What was her name before that? I forget. But Mindy Keene, we know you.
Newsom?
Mindy Newsom?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
But anyways, I remember being at Station 1, and I think it was New Year's Eve. And I remember her saying something like, we've got to get one last fire together before the end of the year kind of thing. Like she was like preparing,
Yeah.
right, for something to happen around midnight. Well, sure as shit. We got a fire down in Engine 3's area. I think we went in on Ladder 1. But yeah, so we, like she predicted it.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Not great for the people, obviously. I always try to manage to remember that there are people out there that are losing their livelihoods when we're
Correct.
showing up.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you can't help but get a little bit amped up by the job that we do. The fire service as a profession.
I think it's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been an athlete my whole life, and, you strive for that adrenaline rush, that beginning of the game, that end of the game. And that just transferred into my career, and it was amazing.
So you seek it out in the beginning of your career, and then towards the end of your career, what?
You yell at the new guys for saying, "Oh, we want a fire tonight."
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
shut your mouth.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Like, you can have that fire.
My favorite
I'm
are the people that are in the stations and the tones go off and they are shouting at the speaker as if like can you hear me on the other end of that
Yeah.
speaker?
Yeah.
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 Shut up.
Yeah.
But what's you go around the table a little bit. What were some of your what's the favorite parts of the job that you got? Favorite parts? I can guarantee I can probably predict it, but
Well, basically
Yeah.
this at the kitchen table. Everybody just sitting
Yeah.
around and just shooting the shit, pranks, joking around. You have a bad call. That's where you work it all out. I mean, and I've talked to other retirees, and they say that's the biggest thing they miss, in which the 3 of you would probably agree to that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That was my prediction. It's the people that you work with.
you don't miss the
Oh, for
calls. You
sure.
don't miss getting up in the middle of the night, but it's
It's
just being around everybody.
Right. I drove by the station today, had like 10 minutes, and I can't stop in because once I do, I'll be there for half an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Just catching up, talking and stuff, so I didn't stop by. But
Yeah.
Were there any great calls that come to mind where you go, damn, that was awesome? And like you were so proud.
Oh, I think the saves,
Yeah.
You get
We don't
pulses
ha-
back on a patient.
Yeah,
or-
I
Yeah.
think the saves for sure. That's your high fiving in the hospital. Like, great job.
Yep.
We did it.
Yeah.
But I do miss cooking popcorn, movies. Everyone sitting in the recliners late at night. I actually miss being so tired in the middle of the night at that 3:00 in the morning call, and you haven't slept, just laughing hysterically at nothing.
Yeah.
Because you're so tired, those are the good times.
Who here has pulled the bonehead move of you've gotten 2 or 3 med calls after midnight and you're like, let's just stay up for the rest of the shift.
yeah.
Me.
Yeah. That was back in the younger days,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
too.
Let's just stay up for the rest of our shift and just sing songs.
Yeah, I worked with Danny Matthews, and he's like, "Well, we might as well play cards."
Right.
So then we'd play cards all night long.
Embrace the suck.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I almost spit on my drink. Yeah, which, by the way, who needs a little bit of refill? We're doing some Basil Hayden,
Yeah.
Jack and Diet, some Coors Light. We got all the mixes going on here.
Though you'd never ask.
So I, just to kind of wrap that part up, I was has anyone ever delivered a baby? I've done 2 of them.
Yeah, I have.
Been a part of, I think, 2 of them.
My
Yeah.
very last shift before I got off the ambulance, I actually had days, so I was driving the engine at night, and I delivered a baby in the back of the ambulance on the side of Route 20. Yeah.
That must have felt great.
Wow.
In the middle of the night? Or were you in the middle of the night?
It was like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it was still dark out.
Yeah.
But I knew this lady was going to have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But, I wasn't on the ambulance. I was driving the engine. And so I looked at the lieutenant and I said, I think we should follow them lights and sirens to the hospital. And he goes, you think? And I go, mm-hmm. And I told the crew, I said, if you need me, because it was a lot of newer medics. I said, if you need me, just pull over. Well, sure as shit. They pulled
There we
over
are.
at like Harrison and bypass 20. And
Yeah.
I got in and helped them deliver the baby. But that was my very last call in the ambulance. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yep. Crazy.
Yeah, you're not going to forget that.
I will not forget that. No, I won't forget it.
Again, bringing that up just because there is, and you did mention the saves. I mean, like when you get to actually get somebody out of a fire and they live through
Yes.
it, which is tragic in and of itself. The burns that they have to go through to get back to normal, any kind of normalcy.
Yeah.
And the fight for their lives in the hospitals and the burn units. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But then you flip that around to when you get to actually bring life into the world. You get to help and be a part of that.
Yeah.
I always thought that was pretty cool.
Unfortunately, we're part of both the end of life and
Yes,
of life.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's very well said. So if we were to collectively think and you can go wherever you want with this, we've kind of been talking about the good and the bad, the ugly. We're going to kind of get there. But what are the hardest parts of the job?
I think it's just you get so used to the lack of sleep and what it just does to your body and just beats you up, and especially here in Rockford. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these companies, pretty much every company, your average day is 15 runs a day on the trucks or the engines. So you're just running constantly.
Yeah.
And it just takes a toll on you.
That's not even an exaggeration. 15 calls is there's nobody on our department that would even blink at that and go, no, that doesn't sound right. It's like, no, that's actually pretty dead on balls accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally you'll get your decent days and nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Occasionally.
but
Yeah.
if you had a good night that shift before,
Yeah.
you're going to get slammed that next shift.
There used to always be the idea that there was maybe 1 or 2 stations that you could sort of hide, air quotes, hide.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's there anymore.
No, I think that's
No.
disappeared
Yeah.
now.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. It's gone for sure.
I think for me it would be there's kind of 2 things there. Is one is obviously your own family life. You just because you had a rough night and you go home, we get 2 days off. So one day, that first day off is not really being off. You're recovering.
People are blown away by that.
You're
You have 2
recovering.
days off?
Yeah.
They're like, what? You
Yeah.
work 10 days a month?
Yeah.
Ask my kids which
And it's
day.
hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Ask my kids which day they would rather be with me on. The day I get off shift or the day after that.
It's the second day, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. The day after shift, they just kind of know to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was over
Yeah.
20 years of time. That's a lot of time away from your family. So, and then I think the other thing is just getting used to the fact that what we see every day anymore doesn't surprise you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
So-
we were
Well,
talking
that's what
about
you
earlier.
had
Yeah.
said, Joel.
So that
that you become
just
immune to it.
bad
Immune.
things like, oh, another bad thing happened, and you just going about your day.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
mentally
anybody-
sterile.
Yeah.
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 And because it does, it takes a huge mental toll on you.
Yeah.
I mean, mentally and physically, this
Right.
job.
Yeah.
It just beats you up.
And I think sometimes you don't realize that mental and physical toll until you do get older, until you do have 20 years in, you know. But for me, I think the lack of sleep is one of them for sure. But I think also we get used to it, right? I think our bodies actually somewhat adjust. But like Chad said, that next day is all recovery, you know. And as a mom, and I'm sure it's like this with the dads too, you know, missing things.
Yeah.
Because you work 24 hours. You don't have that 9 to 5. You know, that for me was really hard to just know I'm going to miss a tournament or miss a game, even though there's hundreds of games, right?
Yep.
You know, you still don't want to miss them. And work does that because you're working holidays. That was a big one too, especially when you have little kids. It's hard to work on Christmas.
Absolutely.
It's hard to tell your kids, hey, you got to wait one more day for Santa to come. Because mom has to work or dad has to work, you know.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I won't say the departments. Again, listeners and viewers can figure out departments that have certain collective bargaining agreements within their contracts that say like, hey, if I'm working a holiday, maybe the people that are assigned that day, they work time and a half. They get time and a half.
Yes.
There's places that I know of that get double time for working holidays.
Yeah.
And that might sound greedy, and I'd say F you. It's not.
It's not.
Because it's what you just said, Erica. It's like what you're giving up on a regular.
Yeah.
And if you're on C shift, you're really fucked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every year.
Over and over
Every
and
year.
over.
Why does this keep happening to me? Because you're on C shift.
You know, when you didn't put me on C shift that one year and I came in your office screaming.
Yeah.
You put me on B shift. That was the saving grace in it all.
Yes.
I know,
was
right?
Like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
But there are times when you get to say, oh, dang.
Jeez.
Sorry, I can't go to Aunt Betty's birthday party.
Yeah.
I got to work.
Using it to your
Darn it.
advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we eat on the holidays, we eat pretty well at the stations.
Oh, that's
true.
too well.
Yes.
That's probably going back to favorite moments is when you do have those times where you're just like, okay, I'm at the station, it's Christmas. But then everybody pitches in and brings in, you know, awesome stuff. And you know, you're just kind of like, you're gluttony for the day.
You are.
Absolutely.
Because it starts at breakfast.
Yes.
It does.
Someone's bringing in cinnamon rolls and it just, it's nonstop.
And everybody
It's
dropping
horrible.
stuff off.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 year at Station 5, you know, because everything's shut down. So PD would come by the stations to either use the bathrooms or just stop in, and they'd open up that door and see all the food and everything at the table,
What
and
the
they're just
What's going on here?
They're like, they just shake their head, turn around, and walk out.
And
like,
and that's when you say,
you took the wrong test.
absolutely.
And I took the right test. Oh my gosh, that's so true, man. It's all good stuff there. I need to move us a little bit to the purposeful reason that we said, okay, let's do this. And, you know, that heavy sigh for me is like, we're going to have a conversation right now about whatever you want to say. And what I'm driving at is that on August 7th / the 8th, that's the B shift to the C shift transition, if you will. So August 7th was a full shift of B shift working, which the three of you were working. And it sounds to me like, Chad, maybe you were on a time trade, maybe? Because you were on C shift. And Joel and Erica, you were both on B shift.
Yep.
And so, Chad, you did a time trade, and assuming that you got reassigned to Engine 2 that day. So now you were working with, that's how the three of you came together.
I was also reassigned.
Oh, you were reassigned as well.
I was reassigned because I was at 10.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're a newer driver, you get shipped out to act all the time.
Right. Congratulations.
Yay. Congratulations. You're on the road.
Yeah.
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 And I was assigned to Engine 2 on B shift.
Okay. So, Erica, you were shipped in that day from Engine 10 to Engine 2 to act as the officer.
Yep.
And then Chad, you what was your position?
Well, that was my first day as driver.
First day.
And the unfortunate part, and I'm sorry for all the engine people, but I got set to the engine for the day. I'm a ladder guy.
Yeah. Yeah. You spent most of your career on the ladder, right?
Most on the ladder.
That's,
That's
same here.
Where the work is and everything.
Yeah.
So.
Oh wow.
Please.
Wow.
Here
Well, we haven't even got to the hard part. He's already starting fights over here.
I'm on a ladder now, so I'll have to agree with you.
I didn't set the table up like this. I didn't mean for it to be ladder versus engine. I wasn't trying to go for that.
I will say I was mostly on an engine, but the ladder was sure fun.
It was.
It was a blast.
I always liked it.
First day driver.
Yeah, first day you get reassigned, and you were on a time trade, so now that puts the three of you together. And as I recall, because clearly you guys were working a full shift on August 7th as you reported into work as normal. The shift starts out. You guys, who remembers the day, how it began?
It was pretty uneventful. I don't even really, sure.
Until it
med
wasn't.
calls. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And nothing really sticks out until the morning when all the storms rolled through.
Right.
Until then.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And when did that start to kind of pop off weather-wise? I remember
it was
wasn't
dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still
Pictures
dark.
So it was probably
dark.
4 or 5 in the morning, something like that, maybe.
Probably. Yeah.
So it was. So as I recall it, because I was obviously not at work yet. I was the district chief for C shift. So I would have gotten, my normal day would have been like I would get up at 5:30, get ready like everyone does, put the uniform on, and head into work. As I'm heading into work in my personal vehicle, I'm like, shit has happened out here. Like it was the weirdest storm system because it wasn't just like this wall cloud that kind of came through. Rockford is known for getting hit by straight winds.
Yeah.
Belvedere gets the tornado.
Right.
We get the straight winds,
Yes.
right? The lead up before the big thing that usually hits Belvedere, unfortunately. But as we're going in, or as I was driving in, I was like, yeah, this is a really kind of a yucky morning, and it just sort of kept like there was like round after round of storms that were just kept coming through. So it was a really disorganized storm system, it seemed like, but it was right on us all the time. And as I was coming in and doing my exchange with the offgoing district, I remember getting into the buggy and the MDT just was stacked with calls, So that immediately told me that basically every company was on the street. Rockford Fire the dispatch was just chirping all day, from the time that I got in the vehicle. But before that, was your guys' shift? Did you guys have just a normal shift? Did you have any other fires before that?
No.
No. I
Before that morning?
I think it was a normal shift, but when you say normal, you got a brand new driver, first day driving.
Yeah.
You got somebody shipped in from a different engine company.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have 3 people as well, don't have the routine down,
Together.
So
together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You know your position.
and I think
And we've all worked together before,
Yeah, I
but
was gonna
you don't
say.
have that like you do with your normal crew.
Yeah.
Right.
And
With that said, the 3 of us could work together
absolutely.
anytime and nail it, 100% on
Yep.
the head. You know what I'm saying? Because
There's no
we know each other pretty well. Yeah.
But you set up, Chad, a good point just to illustrate for where we're headed is that it wasn't the normal shift. It wasn't the normal pairing of the crew. You guys kind of had to come together that morning and say, hey, here we are. We're starting out our day together. And these are the things we got to tackle together
Absolutely,
and, make sure we know the truck and know what we're doing. And that goes back to, some of the operations where, and lots of departments have to operate this way where you want cohesion, you want that collaborative group of people that stick together all the time. That's the best setup, right?
Yeah.
But it becomes this thing when you start, suitcasing people left and right and back and forth, and you're just sort of hodgepodging together a crew to make sure that truck can get out the door.
Yeah.
And too often, what we're signaling the alarm there is that, and I say it very, very clear on this show, is that we are understaffed. We're so far understaffed. I'm sorry, the taxpayer, when we're all taxpayers, let's not forget that you still pay your taxes too. But when we say, and for the, across the country, it's always this side of things where the first responders, the front line is the first to get cut on anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, they don't need that. They don't need those staffing.
That's everywhere.
Which isn't that wild?
Of course it is.
It's wild to me.
It's what pisses me off the most.
Yeah. I can't comprehend that this is the service you want to cut first. Like,
it's easy to cut until you need them.
It's the fight. It's the fight for their life. It's the fight for your life. But it's the first thing to get cut.
And I feel like sometimes in some communities, the people making these decisions have never needed us, whether it's on the EMS side or the fire
right on
side.
that.
So they've never needed us. So to them, you know, they can just toss us to the side, like Joel said, until it happens to them. And I bet their vote's different.
Because we still, doesn't matter what it is, and it's just in our mindset, we'll still get the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you could put 2 firefighters in a clown car and they'll show up and they'll still figure out a way to put the fire out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the politicians know, is that they can exploit that and save face with the tax-paying base that votes them into office, so that they can say, see, I saved you money. And it's like, yes, you are saving money for the average taxpayer, but the cost on the other side is traumatic, and we'll get into why that we're so specific about that here in a moment. But what I'm trying to do is make sure we're clear about, we're setting up a situation where you were a 3-person company that day.
Correct.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that. You
Correct.
guys were 3 people that day.
Yep.
As is the case almost every day. And I can already hear the messaging coming through, people posting going, well, that's just the average day in every town USA in the fire service today. And it's like, don't disagree with you, but I am sick of it. I wish for every firefighter and first responder to stand up and say, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you really want to tackle mental health and wellness and actually say that you look out for me and I look out for you. Don't just throw me a treadmill and say, hey, make sure you try to get a workout in today. It's like, no, you don't understand. Yeah. We're trying to divvy up the workload. And we just explained that in this department that we've all been on, is that you are going to pay your dues. And that's okay, because we signed up for that. We're okay with that. We did sign up for this job, and we'll pay our dues. But the exploitation, the exploiting of us to the degree of your health, physical health, and your mental health, and what that looks like at the end of your career, there's a lot of taking of advantage here.
Yeah. I just talked to a retired Rockford firefighter who's been gone almost 5 years. I talked to him on Saturday. I ran into him. He's had a hip replacement. You know, he's young.
Right.
I mean, he's in his 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the physical toll is, people, I think, don't have a clue, you know, physically. And obviously the mental side, you know, I can speak on that a little bit later, but it's a tough job, and it's hard on your body. It's hard on your mind.
Yeah.
But like you said, we signed up for it.
We did. And there's just acknowledgement there.
And I loved it. Yeah. I loved every minute of going to work.
And it's just acknowledging that, yes, we signed up for it. Signing up for it doesn't necessarily mean, and it shouldn't equate to, well, you signed up for it, so therefore you must have a hip replacement at age 50. Like that shouldn't be the equalizer to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, hey, I signed up for it, therefore I'm willing to sacrifice my body and my mind at every, turn. It's like, no, there should be protections in place so that you don't have to do that either early on in your career or hopefully not at all.
Right.
But time and time again, we're seeing, and more today, we're seeing, to your point, Chad, earlier, you said, we're seeing more people that are like 20 and out.
I know.
20 and out.
And I mean, when I came on the job,
that was unheard of.
Unheard of.
People were staying 30. I mean,
yep.
And past that even.
30, 33, 34 years.
Yeah. 20 and out was absolutely like no one did that.
Exactly.
No one did that 20 years ago when I was new on the job.
Right.
It was like, what do you mean you're leaving at 20? Like,
yeah, they looked at you like weird.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh yeah, I get it. right?
I get it.
20, 25 years are like,
Yeah.
yep, I understand.
Yep.
I'm out.
Yep.
So that's kind of a way to move into the morning of. So we get beyond August 7th. It's past midnight. Those storms are coming in around, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there. Basically the city of Rockford is the whole area was busy. I remember, like I said, as I was coming, I think Harlem Roscoe was going somewhere,
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we were on the call that we were on for a while.
Yeah, at that
And-
flooded intersection.
Right? Yeah. And let me just preface by saying I don't have a lot of input here because I remember nothing.
That's okay. We'll get
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The one
Yeah.
thing I do remember about the flooding was I had moved up to the driver engineer spot. I wasn't the backseat guy that had to get out in the water.
Oh, poor Joel.
And I just because there were
he
probably
probably said that, and that's probably why I took the picture.
yes, and yeah, because every time I get back in, because there were what 3, 4, 5
I
cars
did- I
that
did-
drove into that were
felt
like,
bad.
yeah, you did.
You know what's great about this? What's great about, because I'm sitting right across from you, Joel, and I love what he just said about that, and I just imagine. So now we got to go back to 2022. Here it is, 2025, and all I can think of is Joel getting out and going, "This is bullshit. I got 17 years on the job, and I'm wading
I'm the low guy
waist
in the
deep
truck.
That's what I
water."
was
But it
exactly.
goes back to embrace the suck because we just be watching and you can see the headlights coming down the road. There's cars already up to their
Submerged.
windshields
Yeah.
that I've gone out,
we'd hit the
got the
air
people
horn.
out. Our lights are going and they just keep driving and splash and they're in there.
Yeah.
And I just shake my head and I told them, like,
Isn't
I'm
it-
already wet. I'll go.
Isn't
And we
it,
just
isn't it
go
great
out.
when you see the cars enter into the pool of water in the roadway,
And they're just shocked.
and they no longer are touching the pavement? Their
Yeah.
car just starts doing
Yeah.
bobbing in the water.
And I said,
like,
dang it, there goes Joel again.
And every time I'd get in, they're both, I'm sorry. And they're laughing. And I'm just like, my boots are full.
But I mean, realistically, though, right? How much time on the job did you have then?
I had like 17 years.
Yeah.
It was in my
17
17th
years.
year.
He's the low guy.
I know.
He's the low guy.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure I felt bad in my heart.
But you were
But
dry.
I
your
was
heart-
dry.
Yes.
And worse than that, Low reminds me of he's also old. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We're going to do a refill here. Who needs one?
I mean,
I'm refilled.
This episode is brought to you by Strike the Box Cigars, Pipes, and Tobacco. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado or just starting your journey into the world of fine tobacco, Strike the Box has what you need. From the finest cigars to premium loose leaf tobacco, Strike the Box delivers on quality in a welcoming space where you can enjoy a smoke and good company. Additionally, Strike the Box specializes in vintage pipe restoration. We're talking estate pipes brought back to life with craftsmanship that borders on art. Got Grandpa's old briar gathering dust? Let the crew at Strike the Box make it smoke like new. Check out their full list of vintage pipes for sale at striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois. Soak in the aroma and talk shop with real tobacco lovers from the American Fire Service. Strike the Box, where fire, flavor, and tradition meet. Again, that's striketheboxpipeandcigar.com or swing by the shop located at 6935 11th Street, New Milford, Illinois. Okay, so as we get through some of this conversation, we're going to kind of move into the second segment of the show. And, we've kind of hinted at August 7th and the morning of, we're now in August 8th. And I think that the storm, thought a lot about this, guys. The storm that we all refer to is sort of like a precursor. Have you ever thought about it that way?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I have.
Because that lightning was just popping off everywhere. As I'm
Everywhere.
wading through that waist deep water,
And I thought about that every time.
I'm just like, I'm gonna
I'm
get hit.
I'm sure I did too.
Yeah.
Just don't remember.
Yeah.
We did. We thought together
Oh,
on that.
good.
And it, as you bring that up, Joel, the lightning cracks, the sound, right? I had remembered how active the sky was, but the cracks of lightning and the sound,
Yeah.
from the lightning strikes, was incredible. And it sounded like there was not to over exaggerate, but it did sound like there was a dome over the city, kind of like encapsulating the sound and reverberating throughout the city. It just sounded that loud everywhere I was going.
Yeah.
And as I got into the buggy and took off from Firehouse number 2, I actually was heading to the south because I got on the radio. I said, hey, District 2's on the air, and plenty of radio traffic. I was told that engine 7, I think had been on like something like a down tree across the street or a down power line, something along that line, but they had been there a long time. So my point was that I was going to just kind of drive that way and check in on them and see what they had and what was going on. And within a matter of minutes, driving down southbound on 7th Street, the chief called me on the phone. And so we're having a conversation just over cell phone to say, hey, this is what things are looking like. I think, it was basically just sort of painting the picture clear that there was no companies in quarters. They were all on the streets, and lots of people were out of position. A lot of companies were out of place. Mm-hmm. So
if you can think about that magnitude of, Rockford Fire, big city, a lot of stations, a lot of companies, no one is in a quarter. I mean, if you can think about the magnitude of this day or this morning, with no companies in quarters, that's huge. It doesn't happen too often. I mean, we do get some floods here in Rockford, but the magnitude of that is huge in and of itself.
Well, it's a continuation of building towards this, what I call the anatomy of a church fire MayDay, which is it felt like everything was set up in the worst way for the worst thing to happen. And it felt almost intentional by the spirits, something along that line.
Right.
But that's just all the time and what I've, put into the reflection on the whole situation. And so when I'm talking to the chief, that's when the MDT chirps and says, there's a possible fire, and it's at St. James Church. So I remember saying to the chief, hey, I got to let you go because I'm going to a possible fire. And I, clicked off and made a U-turn on 7th Street, already on the street, just like everybody else, which kind of leads us to how collectively, between Engine 2, Ladder 1, and myself, how we arrived on scene so quick.
Yeah, because we had just cleared up from that flood and went and got fuel, and we were 2 blocks away.
Oh, because we were at that mobile on Jefferson.
Unfortunately, we didn't go south to get fuel. We went north.
Right.
So when that came in, we all kind of turned around and looked because it was just a couple blocks away.
So, Aaron, if you're in the studio there, if you can pull up the audio track and just start playing from the beginning, I'll tell you when to click off.
Engines 2, 7, and 10, Ladder 1, Ladder 9, Medic 9, District 1, and District 2 respond to commercial structure fire at 428 North 2nd Street.
Rockford Fire from Engine 2. We are on scene. We do have a small fire coming from one of the roof vents on the west side of the roof. We'll be investigating. 10-4 Engine 2 on scene. Do have smoke coming from one of the vents on the roof. Out investigating. Rockford Fire from Engine 2. We have smoke showing on the east side of the roof.
District 2 is arriving. I'll have command.
4 District 2 on scene, taking command.
Can you pause it there? So that was the dispatch, and if you're listening to the show, you'll notice that when we play the radio traffic, it does sound like we're sort of sequentially saying things very quickly, we actually took out the gap. So if you said you were on scene, we took out the spacing,
Sure.
basically the dead air.
Sure.
So that's why things sound like they're coming in so quickly. But there was a little bit of time lapse, but not much. I recall as I was getting on scene, you guys were parking. Ladder 1 was pulling off the street and sort of started to get into the parking lot there to get off the street. But that was it. There was the two companies and myself. And, based on your first in report, I wasn't shocked that there was smoke showing, but I was shocked by the size of the building. It's a big church.
It's a big
church.
Catholic
Big
church.
Yeah.
And as a result, what had happened is that, and what we learned later was that lightning had struck the west end crucifix, the cement cross. Both ends of the church, I think, had cement crosses on them, and the west end cross was struck by lightning. My assumption here is that it acted as a conduit with some sort of rebar inside that cement emblem, the cross emblem, if you will, ornate emblem or an ornate cross that sort of decorative pieces to the west and east end of the church. And so as the lightning struck, it took its energy down into the roofing material of the church and started a fire. And as that small fire, and I want to be clear about that, is that this appeared to be a small fire, did it not?
Yeah. I mean, I have to go based on what I say, but
whoever fills in the gaps here. I look to you, Erica. You gave that first in report, right? We just heard
it seemed very
right. But it's small, right?
It was a very small fire
Yeah,
on the rooftop.
just a little smoke. You could see a little flame.
Flickering. It wasn't pushing. It wasn't doing anything, just flickering.
And
no push.
Nothing.
No push.
because it was like 7:15.
So 6:45.
6:45. Okay,
Right on the nose.
Yeah,
well, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong from talking to you guys about this, is that we assumed it probably got hit by lightning.
Yeah.
I think that was our assumption, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we knew probably something was
Yeah.
on fire. Obviously, there was some smoke,
But
but
not to the-
nothing.
No.
Nothing crazy.
And for reference, think about this: is that this was a very well kept, well maintenance church. It was in use. It was not abandoned. We had just a couple years prior had burned down an abandoned church, basically caused by arson. But I mean, this and that just because I want to be, I don't know. I keep thinking about this over and over. It's like it takes a long time in your career to go to one church fire, let alone go to two church fires in a matter of a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like these huge structures, most of these churches where we're talking about in downtown Rockford, and really any city in America that has predominant churches in your downtown area, they're big.
Yeah.
They built them stout.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They built them to
sure.
last the test of time.
Yep.
But and same thing with this case in St. James Church. So we've all arrived, and you guys are getting off the truck. First thoughts through your head were something along the lines of what? To take into account what Erica's first in report was. What were you guys maybe thinking?
We actually ended up circling the church once, and we did a full 360 around it because we were trying to figure out where a good entrance was going to be. Where should we park the truck? What are we going to do here? It's at the very peak on the roof of a very large church.
Yeah.
This is nothing that we're going to pull a handline for. This is, we've got some thinking to do here. So I know when we circled the church once, and then we found our spot to park, we were going to make entrance basically into a ground level back door per se to maybe the kitchen area or something like that. And then we were going to track through and try and figure out where this fire was. But again, knowing the size of this church, and this is nothing we're going to drag a handline to. So
didn't you end up feeling like, of all the places for this fire to be at, it's at the furthest place that I can start
absolutely.
from.
it was at the first place.
And we were, well, if it was 6:45, we're an hour and 15 minutes from getting off shift.
Right.
And
Right.
so we'd almost completed our whole shift when this started.
And that's a great point, Joel, because the effort for what we're wanting to express here is don't let your guard down, because just because you think it's towards the tail end of your shift and nothing bad can happen, we're about to prove you wrong.
Listen, all the bad things happen, I feel like, when you got an hour left, don't they?
Yeah.
All the worst ones happen.
We're about
then.
to prove that wrong.
I don't know, just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you played that audio, I mean, as soon as I heard that dispatch, I did goosebumps all down my whole body.
Literally.
It just
Yeah, I had to take a breath.
took me right back
I had
there.
to take a breath.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to keep moving here with, go ahead, Aaron, with that audio, if you will.
Fire, I've got flames showing on the roof ridge line, Charlie side of the structure. This is going to be a fire. I need Engine 2 and the first ladder to team up as a fire attack group. They're going to go inside and check the interior conditions, make limited entry, and give a report back to me as what they see inside, please.
10-4, District 2 advising flames showing from the roof ridge line, Charlie side of the structure. Going to be an active fire. Engine 2, first in ladder, fire attack group. Check inside and give a report.
I need the ladder that's in front of me to get into the parking lot and prepare aerial operations. So, ladder 1 interior conditions, and then I need ladder. I can't see which one this is. I think ladder 1. They're going to go aerial right away. I need priority on the radio. Upgrade this to a second alarm. I've got smoke conditions throughout the entire roof area. I have spots that are starting to burn through the roof. I need a second alarm, please.
Pause it there. So, yeah. You guys you said a lap, and then you kind of positioned out on, I forget what the cross street there is.
Yeah.
If North 2nd was running this way.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
Jefferson and North 2nd?
No.
Oh, no, it might be.
No, it was north of that.
It's north of North
okay.
or it's north of Jefferson Street.
Was
Yeah.
it Prairie?
I don't know
it
what
might
that
be
one is.
Prairie.
Yeah. Okay.
But you guys you guys stayed on that north end, the north side street.
Northwest corner,
northwest corner. Yeah. So that's what was interesting, was that you guys had made that lap, and I did not know that you guys had done a 360, quite frankly. But I did see ladder 1. They were trying to get into that parking lot, but I'd also attached them to you guys to be this fire attack group. And I use air quotes here. Right out of the gate, using acronyms and things of that nature is great. I advocate for, if you can make it simple, great, simplify it. We've already had a conversation about how 3-person companies suck.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so and they suck, and they suck so badly that how can 3 people operate by themselves in this type of situation that we're describing here? It ain't going to happen.
Nope.
You're already tied.
You're already taxed.
One arm behind your back.
Yes, 100%.
So the idea of bringing 2 companies together to form what we call a fire attack group, and then this goes into NIMS, this goes into incident command structures, things of that nature. And there's across the across the country, people use ICS, they use Blue Card, they use different things that fit for the region that they serve across the country. But the point of all of it is organization, and is to try to get as many people or resources together to be able to accomplish a specific task. And you guys were already fucked. And I say that pretty clear because what really had happened, as I've reflected on it, was ladder 1 was made by my direction to be a fire attack group with you. But I also was relying on them to set up for aerial operations in the south parking lot. And so right there, I've already split the task, but that's not been made clear. I take accountability for that.
I actually didn't know that until just now.
Correct. I didn't either.
I didn't know that.
So this is the reflection
So you don't
part.
have 4, you have 2.
Yeah.
Adding to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or even at best, if I were even to hope that ladder 1 in this case would set their aerial up by just their driver alone, which sucks because we don't want it can be done.
It sucks, but it can be done.
But what's the first rule in fire service? What's the first rule?
2 in, 2
2
out.
in, 2.
2 in, 2 out, 2 people, Don't ever do a task by yourself. Again, I can already hear it. Lots of places do things with one firefighter doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand how it works. It's not the way that it should be working.
Correct.
Right? You don't want to leave a person by themselves for really any reason.
Yeah.
When you're by yourself, it's like, fuck. When something goes wrong, it's like you got to figure it all out on your own. Maybe, but if you have a second person there, I mean, safety in numbers.
Well,
right?
it's like firefighting is a team effort.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about, you're a team, you're a team, you're a team.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said,
And it's going to be more efficient.
Yeah.
so many people are left
Yeah.
alone.
So, to a degree, there's a part there where maybe we can say that, in this case, ladder one, they could, they could split their crew. The two out guys stay with the truck. The 2 in guys go with you guys. However that is organized. But there's an accountability here where I express, be sure that from the incident command point of view, that the 2 officers understand what their job assignment is before they go forward. Because you guys were about to take off on what I call a 13-minute walk. That's how long it takes. Because you do the timestamp from the arrival to when you guys first make access into the scuttle hole. It takes you 13 minutes. It takes an additional 4 minutes to get a line up there. So we actually don't get anywhere near to putting a line into the attic for 17 minutes. So just keep that in mind.
Because this church was so massive trying to find that scuttle.
Exactly.
Well, and I think it's important to note that, the fire was on the west end, but that attic scuttle hole was 150 feet away on the east end.
Right. You see how the spirits are working against us? Exactly.
So it wasn't like we walked in the door and could go straight up to the fire.
Yep.
Had that happened, I think it would be a different outcome for all of us.
Can you go ahead and roll that, Aaron?
District 1, I'm setting up in the parking lot at Lafayette and North 2nd Street. Lafayette and North 2nd Street is the fixed command post. The second alarm assignments can come to the intersection of Lafayette and 2nd Street and wait for further instructions. Engine 7's got a hydrant at 2nd Street in Lafayette. Rockford Fire from North 2nd Street Command. Did you copy my last transmission?
10-4, Lafayette, North 2nd.
District 1 is on scene. He'll have safety for right now.
10-4, District 1 taking safety.
Engine is up, North 2nd.
Engine 10 has got the second hydrant at Prairie and 2nd Street.
Ladder 1 from command. I need you to operate more to the south. Not at this angle. I might need you up there to try to cut a vent hole quickly.
I think we can get it from here, Chief.
10-4 if you can. Engine 10 from command. I'd like you to supply ladder 1.
10-4, we got a hydrant right here.
Ladder 1, your supply's going to come from engine 10. Engine 2 from command. Engine 7 from command. Engine 7, I'm going to probably have you supply the second ladder. We're going to put the second ladder out on North 2nd Street. Can you supply that ladder?
Or do you not want to supply to engine 2 currently?
I'm trying to raise engine 2 to find out, do they have their own supplier, or are you supplying them?
To them right now up to North 2nd Street. They do not have a driver. I can pump this truck, but...
Okay, engine 7, are you telling me you need to supply engine 2? Yes?
10-4.
10-4. Engine 7, go ahead and supply engine 2. And I want large lines pulled to the exterior at least from engine 7.
Can you pause that? So there again, just so we're keep this moving. I did not realize that Chad had not stayed with engine 2.
Right.
And once again, this is a part of understanding that making assumptions from the command post is stupid. And I said it clear. Don't make those assumptions. You know, that's the part that I start thinking later on as the time has gone by, and as I've had my very limited time with you, Erica, over the last couple of years. But you know, as I've come in contact with you, Joel, and Chad, and we've had conversations, but it hasn't been to this level where we say, did we understand things very clearly? You know, how much credit or discredit can I give to myself or take away from myself to say, there's a lot of shit right here that I'm being clear about, that if you are in a command position, be uber clear. I mean, it's very clear here that we've got a fire. We've got something that's very unusual.
Yeah.
But recognizing that this is out of the typical sandbox that we all play in. And that's the whole part of the beginning of the show here was, you know, we illustrated that, hey, in Rockford, Illinois, it's, you know, you can draw a road map on the back of your hand about how you think your shift's going to go.
Yeah.
It's pretty predictable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
This is anything but it.
Right. For sure.
So I guess it's my way to take some ownership here and alleviate some of that feeling and stress where it takes time for people in critical roles to re-examine and continuously re-examine, even if you've, and I've retired. You know, I could wash my hands of anything and go, well, I made it through. My arms and limbs still work. I'm all good. But you know, I'm not okay. You know, this isn't myself living in a vacuum. It's myself living in a situation where I have said with many people and said, you know, I was at an incident where people, their lives were changed as a result of things that we did together. Whether it was one singular decision or whether it was collectively this guidance towards trying to figure out how are we going to deal with this situation. And we have not been in this situation really ever.
Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For all the training that we go to the training grounds, you know, the academy, and we're like, we're going to pump into the high-rise system and you know, supply the sprinklers. So that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to do pumping and hose line deployment. Awesome. Great. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
But have you deployed a line from street side to somewhere near of 1,500 feet away?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
No.
Have you ever done it to the second floor balcony of a church choir balcony?
No.
Have you ever done it into a scuttle hole? Have you ever tried to get
I actually haven't.
those narrow stairs? And
Yeah.
I still remember those stairs. It was a narrow staircase going up to that balcony.
Exactly.
And it had the little the chair lift going up.
Yeah.
So it was tight.
Yeah. So that's where we're going. Go ahead, Aaron, with that.
Man from the fire attack group. Go ahead. We're inside the building. It's clear inside, so it appears to be all in the attic area. 10-4. Which officer am I talking to? This is Ladder 1, Brass. Copy that. Ladder 1, Brass. Hey, Ladder 1, Captain Brass, I'm going to make you the fire attack group supervisor, so I'm going to talk directly to you about the interior conditions. It's 10-4. The whole sanctuary is clear. We're going to get a ladder and try to open up the scuttle to the attic and see what we got. 10-4. Do you have a hand line with you? Not at this time. 10-4. Can you retrieve one, please? 10-4. We're going to need one from the A side of the building.
Again, some
10-4.
assumptions going on there.
I'll have Engine 7 stretch a line to you. Engine 7, do you copy direct? Copy direct. We're going to pull the line from engine 2. 10-4. 10-4. Ladder 9, I need you to locate yourself on North 2nd. Try to grab a corner. Try to grab the Alpha Delta side of this building. And I'll get you a supply engine as quickly as I can. Command from Fire Attack Group. Go ahead, Fire Attack. Firefighter Bradford is going to come down and help show Engine 7 where to bring the line up to. We've gained access to the attic. We're just inspecting now. 10-4. How many people do you have with you?
We have 5 in our group. We do have smoke in the attic.
Copy that. Rockford Fire from Command, update.
Go ahead, Command.
I've got active fire on the Charlie side, the top ridge of the roof structure. I've got smoke showing from 4 vents on the roof. Appears to be traveling to the east, and we're going to continue to aggressively go after this.
10-4, Command, active fire on the Charlie side, top ridge of the roof, smoke showing from 4 vents traveling to the east.
Command to the engine on North 2nd. What's your unit?
This is Engine 8. We're here at the Hydrant Hill and 2nd Street.
Okay, Engine 8, I want you to supply ladder 9.
10-4, ladder. Engine 8 supplying ladder 9. Man from Fire Attack Group.
Fire attack.
We need an engine on the North 2nd Street here so we can get a working line up to the attic here. So if you can free up an engine and come over here, that'd be appreciated.
Okay, Engine 1 can do that. Where do you want Engine 1 to go?
Any side of the building on North 2nd Street.
Engine 1, did you copy direct from the Fire Attack Group where they want you to go?
Engine 1 copies. He needs me to go to the North 2nd south side.
Yeah, go to the address side, North 2nd, meet up with the Fire Attack Group, Captain Brass.
Engine 10 from driver of 10, tell me when you need water.
Thank you.
Command from Engine 2B. Go ahead, Engine 2B.
I have made access to the attic. There's white smoke, moderate heat. I'm at the far end from where the fire was initially spotted, and I don't hear anything or see anything other than heavy smoke.
10-4, you got smoke.
Can you pause it there?
I believe you're at the...
So we're getting close, right? Everyone doing all right?
Yep.
Good.
Doing okay.
Yeah, I mean, so as you listen to that, because you guys are now on the inside, this is less about me now. I'm watching things on the outside. But we just heard, and that's the first time, for what it's worth, that's the first time that that I hear somebody on air. Because like we say, I mean, Captain Brass says, hey, the sanctuary is clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was nothing on that balcony. We weren't even masked up at that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nope.
And here's another, quick little warning. We're just going to keep throwing those out here because the whole point of us doing this together was we said, let's try to make something good out of it and teach some lessons. There is a false sense of security created when anyone on the fire scene says, I got clear conditions. We got nothing going on really. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that you don't, maybe that's exactly what you have going on. Maybe you have very, very little. Maybe you have nothing. This is a false alarm. And we knew it wasn't a false alarm by any means. Yeah. But hey, maybe this thing is just not that big as you can see it. So when things are said, we believe it. That's just the way of firefighting, Well,
and I think for us, like I said, I don't remember, but having talked to these guys, I feel like what we saw on the outside was very minimal.
Yeah.
We knew something was burning, but, it was little smoke, whatever. And then I think when we walked in the sanctuary and that was totally clear, we're like, oh, okay. It's just in the attic.
Just going to have to find it.
We'll just have to find it. And
knock it down
knock
quick.
it down,
Sure.
go from there.
And be out of here by 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be home to see our family at 8:30.
But I just want to kind of go back to the timeline that you said earlier about 13 minutes. Mm-hmm. 13 minutes from the time we walked into that, we parked and walked into that building. 13 minutes is a long time.
Very long time.
But again, in our minds, we're walking through. There's no smoke. There's no heat. There's not even a haze. We walk up to the balcony of the church, and when we get up there, there's nothing. We find the scuttle hole. We open up the scuttle hole. We go up in the scuttle hole there, and it's just lingering, lazy smoke. So in the back of our mind, we're still thinking this fire that's literally about half the size of this table, just flickering, because that's all it was when we showed up.
Yeah.
Had no idea what was going on the outside.
No idea.
Mm-hmm. No idea. 13 minutes later, obviously it grew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what you hear on the outside of things is what I'm, and again, when I try to use less of the term of what you versus I, we were all doing the things that need to be done on any fire ground.
Sure.
The tasks and the tactics are being launched. Incident command is being established. We got a safety officer. We're doing all the things.
Yeah.
And on the outside, what I'm trying to do is prepare for, well, what if? Now, I'm not thinking what if is a flashover. I've already just revealed now what this is about to happen. I'm not quarterbacking this for a flashover. I'm quarterbacking this for the idea that, well, if this thing doesn't get away, if it gets away from us and you're not able, as you said, Joel, to get a line up there, put some water on the fire and exit out and we all go home happy ever after. But what I'm preparing for is, oh man, what if this does, this takes off, the roof gets involved and I got to pull everybody out and we go defensive.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go. That's all it is.
Yep.
Is I'm over here going, I think this is where we're going. Like, I don't think we're going to get there because I think they're going to get it. As in, you guys are going to get water on the fire. That's the belief system going on right now.
Yeah, because at that point, I still think we're getting the line up there because, as you heard in the audio, Captain Brass sent me out to go grab a line.
Yep.
Because the doors were right there. Go right up those steps.
Yeah.
And that balcony was right there. And they were, Chad and Erica were up there just trying to figure out how to get across the balcony to just start hitting it from the inside.
Right.
That's still at that point, it was like, this isn't much.
And just to paint a picture for your listeners, this is a huge church.
Yeah.
So the sanctuary,
keep saying that.
The sanctuary
It was
itself,
big.
the sanctuary,
really, really big.
Yeah, the sanctuary from itself, from where the pews are to the ceiling, I would guess was 25, 30 feet. I don't know if there's ever measurements taken, but when we keep talking about we're in the balcony looking for the scuttle, that was another 16 or 17 feet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The choir balcony, it had a 20-foot ladder vertical that I believe, Joel, you end up being at the bottom of.
Yeah, and we found that ladder bungee corded to the wall in the back of the balcony because that's what they used to get up in the.
Yeah.
So
and we're gonna show that here in a little bit, but that's exactly right. Now, so that just again for listeners and viewers, what's happened here is that Engine 2 Ladder 1 as a fire attack group has entered from the east side. Your fire's on the west side. It's up in the attic of this church. You enter in from the east. You have to find the staircase that leads up to the choir balcony. That's probably easy accessible. You can see it. You can move up there. But then when you get up there, you still have to find the scuttle to get you up vertically into the attic space. Once you're in the attic space, you still have another 16 to 18 foot pitch up to the actual ridge line of the interior of the attic. So what you're seeing is lazy smoke with no push from your perspective. What's reported is no heat.
there was no heat.
There's no heat.
There's no heat.
It's all these signals and confirmations coming back to the command post going, everything's okay. But visually on the outside, to make that point clear, there's also no push. There's some fire venting to the west. It's not venting there's no pressure behind it, flickering flame, if you will. And the vents are pushing, or I already said there's no push, but it's just sort of emanating smoke. But each vent is beginning to become more and more involved with smoke as that smoke is collecting to the interior upper end of the attic, the pitch of it, if you will, which will lead me to another flaw that is overlooked essentially by command, by me. So what's going to happen here is we're going to keep going with the audio.
Address side, A side on the north second side, right?
Correct.
And 4.
Engine 1 from Fire Attack Group, can you come up here to the north side, or to the North 2nd Street entrance?
So, Fire Attack Group from command, I understand what you're wanting is a engine to get you a working line so you can enter the Alpha side and make the attic.
10-4, if we can get a working line, we have a scuttle to the attic. The floor is a wood attic floor, and we can try to look for the source of the fire in the attic.
10-4. District 1 is going to come over and coordinate that with you, and I have Engine 1 on assignment to hook up with you to get you your working line.
Engine 7's crew just took a working line to the A side, and we have water.
10-4, Engine 7.
Command from Engine 2A.
Engine 2A, go ahead.
We only have about 2 feet of floor in this attic. Can't go any farther.
10-4. Do you have a line with you?
Regular, not yet. We have ladder 1 to see if there's another scuttle on the other side of the attic.
Okay. For right now, can you please back down until you have a line with you?
Basically, to command, I'm going to have Engine 1 assisting with interior stretch.
Repeat that one. Ladder 5, hold up right there. Safety, District 1, repeat your last traffic.
I'm assigning Engine 1 to the fire attack group to assist with the stretch to the attic.
Command from Ladder 9. We're all set up for aerial operations with water supply at this time.
Unit calling command, go ahead.
Command, this is Engine 2A. We have a line in the attic for backup here. They've got a hole. Prove not. They've got some the fire. We're having smoke up here, but not a lot of heat.
Can you pause there? So, a couple things to take from that transmission, or the several transmissions there. It's interesting that, and here's another great learning point from going up into buildings that have these huge attic spaces with the rafters being spaced out in a certain way where, they're not going to cover those rafters with flooring.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was, again, not a, there's some assumption there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, there's some flooring up. It's like, no. As I understand it, they used plywood, 4x8 sections. They only had maybe 3 or 4. And you guys can fill in here.
Right.
That then they just moved those around to walk
Where they
along
needed
to
to
where they
go.
needed to go, maybe to change, I don't know, lights or something along that line. Is that correct?
Right. And so, so when we got up in the scuttle, and believe me, I'm closing in on the end of my career. I didn't consider myself a risk taker at that point in time in my career. And so the first thing I did when I put that ladder to the scuttle, I got up close to the scuttle before I even got into the scuttle. The first thing I did was try to see if I could see what the flooring was made out of. And I looked at it, I'm like, okay, they didn't do what I would do and put like 1/4-inch plywood up here. They put at least 3/4-inch plywood. It was heavy duty plywood. So I felt comfortable
Sure.
going up there. So, because otherwise there's no way I was going to get in that scuttle, because that scuttle, again, was 18 feet above the balcony. And then if we were to go out over the sanctuary, it was plus that much.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that would have
So-
what that just to paint the picture for listeners and viewers, and just for the 4 of us, is that would have taken the effort of you guys actually moving the plywood along with you as you try to move your way. There was no way that you were actually going to move forward to
No.
fight this fire to the west.
And
Correct.
it was
Okay.
smoky enough.
Another flaw at the again, we keep coming back to assumptions.
Right.
That's the takeaway from here, from the position that I'm sitting in, is if you are relying on assumptions, I'm going to be the cautionary to do not do that.
Yeah.
Assumptions are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you even tried going across that attic, I know in my mind I'm thinking, you go through that ceiling in that attic, that you're done.
You
That's
don't survive that.
No.
That's a long drop.
Yeah.
What, 40 feet?
40 feet.
At
Probably,
least.
at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I got up in that attic, and like I say, I made sure it was thick enough plywood. I got up in the attic, and I slowly was feeling how far out that attic, how far that platform went. And I got to a point where it dropped off, and I can still see it as if it was yesterday, reaching down and grabbing insulation. So I knew that's where that
was it.
Yeah.
That's where it ended. Now, and it was smoky enough that I couldn't see, like, okay, is there a catwalk that would go down the middle of the way or not, or is there some way of getting to the other end? I don't know, but I'm stopping here, and that's when Erica came up through the scuttle, and I gave her a little briefing on what I was palpating and feeling.
Yeah.
And
Always pushing that EMS.
It was
Palpating.
It was the weirdest thing too, because when I kind of circled back around to, I guess it would be the south side of the scuttle, there was actually another ladder, and it was a homemade built wooden ladder. And I'm like, I wonder how far the peak of the ceiling or how far the peak of this attic really is. If there's another ladder to get to the peak, so I got about 4 or 5 rungs up that ladder. And again, I'm not a risk taker in my career at this point in time. I said, you know what, this is a homemade ladder type thing built out of wood. I don't care how far it is up to the peak of that attic, but I was curious.
Yeah.
So that shows you, though, that another ladder inside the attic to get to the peak.
Yeah.
And where that went, I don't know. I never made it to the top of there. So
Yeah.
came back down, and that's where, again, Eric and I were talking about what we had, what we were going to do, and all same time of communications of make sure you have a hose line up there. And so you said back down until we got a hose line, and it was we knew the hose line was close.
Yeah.
So we
But labor intensive.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
'cause
were
it-
throwing. Go ahead, Joel.
Joel was spent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the time, because think about it, we've been searching. We've been walking around for 13 minutes prior
Yeah.
to this, trying to find
Yeah.
with all our gear, all our equipment.
Yeah.
You know.
At this
and
point,
then-
you've actually been pushing 15 minutes now.
Yeah. So
and you'd been swimming before that. So
yeah, I had boots full of water, so that added
He
to
was
the weight.
even more weighed down.
So, by the time I got that line, got it up there, and got it stretched and flaked out, I was like gassed.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, and I can't
Can only
remember who it
imagine.
was, grabbed the nozzle. We had the Y right down there at the bottom of the ladder. I grabbed the nozzle, and I can't remember who it was. It was one of the newer guys, because we also have to remember, also being set up that day, was that day there were multiple brand new recruits. That was the end of their very first shift on companies.
That's right.
And
So-
new ones coming in
and new
the
ones
C
coming in that morning. So that was their very first day. They haven't even completed their first shift when all this happened.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
I believe it was one of the newer guys. I just said, "Hey, get the nozzle up to him," and then that's when you guys got the nozzle.
Yeah.
We ended up getting the nozzle, and I know there was conversation about charging. I said, don't charge it yet. Let us get enough up here so that we're not hoisting all the heavy weight of
Right.
the water in the charge line. So I remember Eric and I pulled enough hose up to let friction kind of keep it up there where it needed to be and not fall back down through the scuttle. And I can see this like it was yesterday. I looked down, I saw the Y, I saw the charged line coming to it. I'm like, don't charge our portion, just
Because I
push
was
to the Y.
I was down there at the
Because-
Y waiting.
right.
Yeah.
Because again, I can see sitting there talking face to face to Erica like this. The smoke is just between us, just dancing. It's not pushing. It's not
Yeah.
heat. There's nothing.
Yeah, because then I
I've-
even asked you. I was down at the base of the ladder, and maybe I think I went up like a rung or two, and you kind of poked your head down, and I said, "Do you need me up there?" And you said, "Just hold off.
Yeah.
Let's wait till we have." So I went back over to the Y, so
Yeah.
somebody was right there to charge it
Yeah.
if we needed it right
Yeah.
away.
And talking to you guys, it sounds like our plan was, hey, let's get the thing vented so we can even see where this fire was, because
Yeah, we were cutting.
I know
Ladder one was
me.
cutting on the west end.
and I
Yeah.
feel like in my mind, I know we're 50 feet away from this fire.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I just remember thinking, I don't even know that we can fight this fire from in here. So let's get it vented. Let's get the smoke out. Let's
Yep.
see what we're dealing
Yep.
with. And we're either going to hit it or getting out.
Right.
And we're going to do a different attack.
And to be honest with you,
She brings
Chief,
up a good point.
To be honest with you, Chief, okay, let's appease the chief and get a hose line up here, but there's nothing we're going to do with it. We can't. There's no way we could spray water all the way from the east end to the west end of this peak.
Right.
Oh,
Put
yeah.
water. So I'm like, okay, the chief wants a hose up here. Let's get it up
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that
Yeah.
bring it all to fruition here, because that's the whole part of the assumption piece is, I wasn't expecting you to get up there and go, we can only exist on the few pieces of plywood that they've
Sure.
left up here. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's figure out what plan B is, but we weren't able to, even to execute that. Plan A/B was to be operating it, even though, and Joel, like you say, I mean, I know you were you probably all were gassed, but the effort to get that hose line in place by not only the fire attack group, but for Engine 1's effort, Engine 8's effort, all the people trying to get that hose line in place, everyone's gassed. And at the same time, I know that I've got a certain firefighter on ladder 1 who is a great firefighter that is operating a chainsaw trying to get a vent hole cut. The whole idea being that if we can just draw that heat and smoke, and this continues to be the false narrative of there's very little heat. We're going to get to that in a second. It's lazy smoke. It's on the outside. It's like, yeah, it's smoke, but I'm not seeing fire. And the whole idea with vertical ventilation, trying to get that so that it stays to the west, stay to the west. People are entering from the east. Keep all that conditions to the west. Don't let it travel to the east. That was the intent, if you can kind of go with that, if you will. But we've not addressed heat, and here lies the issue, and why I advocate strongly that not only this incident be further examined. And when I say further examined, advocating for this to go to the level of credentialing, that the idea that if you can learn from something like this, there are all types of organizations and acronyms out there that could take this incident and say, if you want to teach firefighters how to use TIC thermal imaging cameras, this would be it. Because I'm about to really blow the top off of that one. Yeah. Which is here at Rockford Fire, every SCBA comes with a TIC on the SCBA. Now, there are 2 requirements of that. One, the individual operator, the firefighter, has to know how to use that TIC. The second component is that the incident commander has to know how to ask the firefighter to use the TIC. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. This is what I mean by we don't live in independent vacuums. Yeah. This is what I've taken away from the years that we've been removed from 2022 to where we're at right now in this studio. Yeah. Is that it takes command prompting to say, hey, Firefighter Miller, who is in charge of Engine 2 with there being the fire attack group that was assigned between you and another company, but you're reporting, smoke, no heat. What should have been the next thing? And I keep thinking about that over and over and over.
Get the thermal.
What does your TIC say? Yeah. Yeah. If we had pointed that to the ridge, if we had said, because I know the setup here is that we have driver engineer, officer in charge, Erica Miller. We've got firefighter, driver engineer, Jack Hallison. They're both up in the scuttle. Firefighter Joel Bradford is at the ladder. You're not up in the scuttle, but you are at the foot of the ladder, holding that as you should be. And, Erica, you report, I got no heat. Well, of course you don't, because you're on your knees. Yeah. You're at the lowest level of the attic. Yeah. The question should have been, what is your heat signature at the top? If we were to point that your thermal imager to the top of that roof structure, what was the heat up there? Right. Because that's what fucking matters. Yeah. Yeah.
I had a conversation with my brother. He's a retired assistant chief in Dixon and was captain for many years. And when I finally was able to gain composure enough to tell him about the story of what actually happened, he started to ask me a question, and then he stopped. He said, never mind. I said, no, what? Ask. Ask, because I'm trying to put this all together. He says, don't you guys have ticks in your SCBAs? I'm like, yeah, we do. He goes, I won't say anymore. So he knew that that's something I should have remembered.
And I think this is where assumptions also come into play. Right. Because I think we assumed we knew where the fire was. Right. And that we knew it wasn't big. Right. And then when we walk in the sanctuary and there's nothing. Right. We get up to the, attic and there's lazy smoke, no heat. I think the assumption was, well, we know where this fire's at. It's 150 feet away on the other side.
Flickering.
Yeah.
Flickering. Right.
I mean,
like a Bic lighter.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
I mean, that was the assumption.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know.
Can we go ahead and roll that audio?
10-4, I copy you.
Command from the fire attack group.
Go ahead.
We have the line stretched to the attic. Unfortunately, we can't get to the Charlie side of the attic. We might have to try to find a different way to access that side of the church.
Copy that. Rocker Fire from command. If I could get another chief officer to respond to this, I'm going to need assistance.
10-4 command.
Go ahead. Ladder 1, pull back. Ladder 1, pull back.
Can you
All
put that
companies,
first photo up now?
Retreat, pull out, pull out.
I'm from Ariel.
Command. All companies pull out.
So this is the flashover event right here.
Ladder 5, I need you to be the Ritz. Meet up with safety.
Have a Mayday.
I copy the Mayday. Go ahead.
We need a backboard up to the sanctuary. One of the firefighters fell down the ladder.
Copy that. Ladder 5 is the Ritz, and they're coming in to get help to you. District 1 from safety.
Command from fire attack group.
Fire attack group, go ahead.
Coming through the sanctuary ceiling now. Let's make this a defensive fire.
I'm working on doing that. I'm answering your Mayday right now. Ladder 5 is coming in to help you. Rocker Fire from command. Emergency traffic.
Can you pause it right there? So we are at, for time signature wise, so we arrived at 6:45 a.m. This is now 7:17 a.m. That's how long, how many minutes had gone by, and we've got all the conditions that we do not understand have come together. And when I say that we don't understand, we collectively don't realize that what's happened is that the smoke and the heat has entrapped itself underneath the massive roof structure of this sanctuary, of this church, I'm sorry. And what we are feeling and sensing is just calmness at the level of where you guys are at, specifically you, Erica, and Chad, up in that small, just to be very clear, this is a very small scuttle to access into the attic. There's only one way in, there's only one way out. And when this thing lights up...
I do want to interrupt you for a second.
Go ahead, please.
Chad and I were right there.
Yeah.
At our only exit.
Right.
Thank God. I mean, we were right there, you know.
It doesn't go unnoted. Had you guys been anywhere else in that attic, I already know it'd have been a different outcome.
Sure. Yep.
So by the grace of God, we'll say, and the spirits, if you will, since we've been talking about the spirits. But by the fact that you guys did remain at that scuttle for the most part.
I think that's a learning thing for anyone listening, you know, and you want to assume that every good firefighter would know that. But maybe they don't. Right. You know, when you're in a space with one way in and one way out, you better stay close.
Let's get to where, now that we're at the flashover point, and we know this is a flashover, there's no doubt in my mind. This is, again, I did advocate at the time. I believe that this should have been examined. I'll use certain words in the proper way. Because as far as the investigation goes, and I have them on the table here, the event that we're discussing here resulted in these documents being produced. Thick. There's a lot of material here.
Yeah.
You know, for one incident, and rightfully so, as they should be. But the point of it is that there is so many lessons that can be taken out of this situation for every firefighter across the country, because you know what? Every city, town, village, unincorporated area of the country has a church.
Yeah.
And from my understanding and investigation into what church fires look like, they almost never go well. They almost always go sideways. And, why we're calling this episode Anatomy of a Church Fire MayDay, because we're dissecting this to the level to say assumptions are bad.
Bad.
Really bad. And knowing what your conditions really are like versus what you think that they are like. And we rely so much in the fire service on feeling and sensing the conditions. I mean, hell, they used to teach you. I mean, remember there was a day and time when they said, don't wear a hood because you won't be able to feel the heat pinch your neck? The pinch, right? That's how you know.
Or just pull your hood back a little bit and see if you can feel anything.
Maybe burn a little the side of your eye, because, hey, that's how we're going to do a heat check.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to be smarter than this nowadays, right?
Right.
Because it's 2025.
Yeah.
So let's be smart.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, this is the smartest thing that the four of us could have done, is to say, this happened and the examination of it has purpose to it, because you guys survived. Not without injury, but you did survive.
Yeah.
And the survivability of this, in terms of what could have happened, is a very, very, very small eye needle.
Yes, it is.
Because if you guys had been any further from that scuttle, you wouldn't have made it out.
No.
Plain and simple. And to have what happened next to you, Joel, describe it for us.
Well, I just said, I had asked Eric if she wanted me to come up, and she said, no, just hang tight till we figure it out. They had less bodies up there, which I completely understand from her. And then down at the base of the ladder, when all hell broke loose, and we went from having no smoke on that balcony to just that whole balcony area was charged. I mean, I can still just picture that ball of smoke just coming out of that scuttle hole. And got my face piece on quick. And, my bottle was already turned on. Got my face piece on, helmet back on quick. And I got to the base of the ladder, and I don't know if I was, getting ready to go up, because this is where I have my memory lapse. There's probably about 2 or 3 minutes where I don't have a clue what happened. And so I'm at the base of the ladder. I don't know if I was going back up or just healing it to make sure that they had their way down, that ladder wasn't going anywhere. And then next thing I know, Chad and I are sitting at Erica's head. She's on the ground moaning. And, from what we can assume is I was their cushion when they bailed out of that attic, and I was at the base of the ladder, and I was the bottom of the pile.
They both fell on you, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, the adrenaline was going so much, we knew now we're there. She's pretty much unconscious. And Chad and I were up at her head, making sure that her air was still going. And then, like I said, one of those guys that's first day on the job, and he immediately, without even being asked or anything, just hooked his buddy breathing into her to make sure she had a good air supply. So, that just goes to show you the training that we do in the academy and everything. He knew just like that instantly.
Yeah.
He popped that buddy breathing on, so she had air. So we're in there and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And then that's when they called out, asked for a backboard. But then we got thinking about it. We're like, there's no way we're going to get a backboard down those stairs with that chair lift. And those stairs still just piss me off because they were so narrow with that lift. And so we ended up calling for a mega mover, which is it's like a big tarp with handles on it.
Yeah.
And that's how we were intending on getting down. Chad had injured your ankle, and I wasn't really feeling anything at that point. But then, it was just huge adrenaline rush. Well, then we can still hear Erica. She's breathing, she's making noise, but she's not really responding all that well. So we ended up getting her on this mega mover and started carrying her down those stairs. And think you were about halfway down the stairs, and you're like, get me out of this thing. She wanted to get out of that because I'm sure that had to hurt like hell because I'm sure she was sore. And she ended up walking out.
I can definitely hear myself saying that.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
be like, let me just walk out of here, guys.
But it just kind of goes back to like our training and everything. Because like, I know Chad and I I don't remember that section in between where I got my face piece on. And then next thing you know, we're at her head. There's that couple minute gap that I do not have. But I know it was just like all of a sudden we're there and we're checking her face piece, checking her air, doing all of that. I mean, it went back to training. We were both right there and doing that. And it's like, and then I started going on bells. So I knew I was getting low on air also. So then we had, I think it was the officer of Engine 1 was up there. And I'm like, hey, can you call and have another crew down at the bottom of those damn stairs so we can hand her off because we're getting low. And I think that's where that second Mayday came in.
Yeah, that's going to come up here in a minute, but go ahead.
So then, we finally got a plan together, got her going down those stairs and everything and getting out. So, and we didn't know what condition everybody was in.
Aaron, can we pull up the second photo there? So to everything that Joel just described, and obviously I want to hear from both, Erica and Chad here. This is the outside view after when the flashover, and you'll notice that ladder one's tip with the firefighter still on it that was cutting that vent hole, he's pulled back because, and this photo does not do it justice. Like it's not even close to doing it justice. Yeah. When the Mayday, when the flashover occurs, that vent hole shoots up about 30 feet in the air with a Roman candle of flame. And every one of those stained glass windows lights up like a Christmas tree. This episode of the Original Firefighter Podcast is sponsored by Castle Contracting. Castle Contracting offers commercial and residential restoration, leading the industry in roofing, residential siding, gutters and downspouts, egress window installation, storm damage assessment and repair, and solar energy, saving you money and time. If you want to be treated like royalty, contact Castle Contracting to schedule a free inspection. Call them at 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. That's 877-512-4207 or go online and visit castleexteriors.net. Serving Illinois, Wisconsin, and Kentucky, Castle Contracting has you covered. Your home is your castle. Call Castle Contracting today. And the sanctuary, as reported, it remained clear. It was all clear, right? Until it wasn't, which was the point where Joel sees this big push of smoke and debris and whatever comes out of that scuttle hole, followed, assumingly, by Erica first?
No.
Or Chad first? Chad comes out of the scuttle hole first, is that correct?
Yeah.
And lands on you, Joel. It's about a 20-foot drop.
Yeah, I'm not sure who I got hit with.
And then Erica's coming out right after Chad, right? So while that's happening, simultaneously, all of these elements are emitting from the structure of the building. And I'm at the command post going...
I think I heard your sigh or your, like, oh, shit moment.
Fuck
like,
me.
Yeah. Like...
Yeah.
This is bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
We were up in the attic there, and like I say, we're just talking about, it's way down there. I don't know how we're ever going to get there. Are we going to get there? Let's just sit here and see. I could hear the chainsaw, and I'm just thinking, well, again, assumption. Come on, Ron, get the hole cut, and then in my mind, I'm envisioning this smoke just trailing all down to the west end and up out the vent.
Sure.
And that's what's going to happen.
We're going to vent this like we would just normally vent something, pitched roof. We're going to vent it.
So while we're sitting there, I was sitting there almost the way Eric and I are here right now. We're on our knees and we're kind of facing each other, and the scuttle's right to my right. And when I put the ladder up to the scuttle, I used the ladder to push the scuttle door open. So thinking back, I'm thinking, when I went down the scuttle hole, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, the whole side of my head got super hot, and I looked down to this attic, which was nothing but darkness, and I knew again from seeing the outside of the church how far down that went. Like Erica said, maybe 150 feet. But all of a sudden, I had this heat hitting me in the side of the head, and I'm like, "Where's that coming from?" And I glanced up, and again, not knowing how high the peak of the attic was.
Hey, folks, hope you're enjoying this episode. Please keep watching. You're going to notice that we're going to lose video a little bit. We had a switcher problem, technical issue, but we do have rotating imagery that's going to happen for about the next hour, and then the regular video will come back in. The whole episode continues on, so please keep watching and be safe.
Saw a little flicker of flame, and I screamed to her, now, you aren't going to air this part, but she said, "You scream like a girl," saying, "We got to get the fuck out of here." And I remember saying, "We got to get out of here." Now, I didn't remember sounding like a girl. No offense to girls, but...
I have two memories, and that's one of them. And I called him the day that it came to me, and I said, "Oh, my God, I just remembered two things." And one was the insulation in my hand. And he goes, "Yes, that happened." And then I said the next one was you screaming like a girl, like, "Oh, my God, we have to get the fuck out of here." And he's like, "That also happened too, but I'll never admit it."
But when I look back down that darkness, it was the largest triangle from peak of attic, side to side, floor to ceiling, of rolling fire coming at us. And I'd always look back on the fact that it was an instinct, and I apologized to you before on this. It's like, who goes first? Who gets out of here? And I think back on that. I didn't think of it that time because it just happened. I literally sidestepped to that hole and down I went. Now the scuttle was small. I'm not so small, right? And I knew my backpack was going to get caught up on that scuttle. And I shimmied as much as I could. I was on the ladder, and I instantly thought, okay, just do the slide or whatever you got to do to get off this ladder, because Erica's coming down behind me. Well, and when you think about it, okay, thinking normal attic height, it's going to hurt, but not bad. I forgot I was 16, 18 feet high. And thankfully, Joel was there to cushion me.
Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
You're the best.
Thanks, Joel. Once I hit the floor and realized that my good friend, my colleague, my partner was still up there, I couldn't get back up that ladder fast enough to get her out of there. And I remember, as fast as I could possibly go up that ladder, getting about halfway up, thinking, I've got to be about to the top. So I looked up, and that's when Erica came down on top of me. Now, I don't exactly remember if she was head first, feet first, or what she was. I'm guessing by the injuries, she was head first coming out of that scuttle.
I make that assumption myself.
Which makes sense only because, Chad was there, so his feet could go out first. He was right there.
Yeah.
And don't ever apologize to me about that again, because I'm in charge. I better be the last one out of there, right? I am in charge. That's my crew. They better be safe before I am, right? But for me getting out of that hole, I had to dive head first, right? Just because of our positions.
Instinctively.
There was no time to turn around to go feet first. That wasn't a thing.
Yep.
So, down it was. I don't remember, obviously, but yes, according to the injuries, it's safe to say I landed on my head. Yeah.
And we are thankful again for Joel for catching both of us
Thank
again.
God.
So
we love you so much.
That first one wasn't bad. Wham!
three refrigerators.
Let's try another one.
I feel like he needs like a Fisher Price doll, like a squishy mattress doll, but it's Joel's face. The mattress.
Yes.
Brought to you by Fisher Price.
I will say this, thank God maybe one of you broke my fall, maybe both of you broke my fall. It doesn't matter.
Because if you're going down head first 18 feet.
I don't
Yeah.
think that we would all be sitting here talking.
Can we go to
today.
the next photo? So this is the sanctuary from the second floor balcony, which you guys entered from the east side, made your way up to the second floor choir balcony. So this is looking towards the pulpit. I'm sorry if I'm not using the correct terms in Catholic terms, but you're looking towards the pulpit where the priest would deliver the sermon, right? And so what you can actually see here is you can see pretty how clean the walls are from side to side, from north and south side of the walls. But now look at every single ventilation hole there.
Yeah.
That is the amount. That's the impression I get of the push. That's the smoke and the heat, the force of what came out of this flashover, and how it stained that ceiling inside that sanctuary. So that's the condition. What I'm trying to paint there is that's the condition of the sanctuary on the underside of what you got, of the environment that you were on the top side. And right. Chad paints this picture of this triangulation of flame and smoke and fire coming at them at both of you in this, kind of like dragon's breath sort of way.
Yeah.
And no wonder why you guys got out of there like a bees out of a hornet's nest, right? I mean, yeah. You're never going to take the heat and the beating and the near death that's going to come from this if you don't get out.
Yeah.
Can you go to the next? So this is where you guys came out of. Quickly, you'll see that there is a hose line that's going up the ladder, and that's what you guys were attempting to operate up there from your position. But when the flashover occurs, this is the scuttle that you come out of. And I always look at this photo and go, you both came out of that. And Joel would be at the bottom of this ladder and obviously taking the impact of the fall from the both of you. And,
when you look at that, it looks like a long way.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen that picture.
That looks like a long way.
Right.
Yeah.
And not a very big opening.
Well, and you also have to remember, too, that there were all the chairs and pews and everything up there in that choir balcony. Because I remember just throwing stuff just to get it out of our way so we could move and maneuver.
Right. You can go to the next slide. So this is the sanctuary over the pulpit. And what we'll note here is where we began. So if we begin back at the lightning strike, lightning hits, it ignites that west end, the building material, the roof building material, it burns. What does it do? We keep saying that it lingered. It kind of burned, a slow burn, until enough elements and debris fell from the roofing structure down to the attic level, the floor of the attic, but there really wasn't a floor. There was rafters and there was drywall and there was insulation. Mm-hmm. So you have debris from the roofing material that's on fire that falls into the attic area, and then that does its own slow burn. As it's slowly burning, you guys are attempting to make entry. You guys are traveling from the ground level off of engine 2. You collect up with ladder 1. You guys go into the east entrance, ascend to the second floor balcony, the choir area, and now you still have to make entry up into that scuttle area to try to gain access to the attic space. This whole time, you've got debris that's been sitting up there and just is eating away at the sanctuary ceiling until finally the sanctuary ceiling falls in to what we're looking at right now. The ceiling level now falls into the sanctuary. That whole sanctuary is full of fresh air. So what I see here is a flow path that's now created where all of this fresh air is pulled up into that hole above the pulpit.
A large flow path.
A large flow path. It mixes with the right amount of heat and smoke, which is fuel, and therefore we get the flashover event. And we know this, at least from my point of view. There was no pressure. There was no percussive, like a kind of an explosion, like a backdraft would have some kind of a pressure behind it, right? This was just full on rapid fire development with what I, call from my point of view, and plus I could hear it, was that Roman candle sound of just fire, blowing like it was coming from a jet engine.
Yeah, I've
on
heard
the
that
west
from a few
end.
different people that it sounded like a jet engine.
It did. It very much did. So we saw a Roman candle on the west end. You guys saw a triangulation. You, Chad and Erica, you saw a triangulation of fire coming at you. And all of it looked terrible. Very, very bad. And if we can go to the next slide here. And then that's from the top side, from the attic, if you will. And this would be obviously the very opposite of where you guys were at. This would be the west end. Okay. And then the next slide. And this would be, the exterior outside view. This is, after a bit of time has gone by, after you guys have been extracted from the church, and, you all taken to ambulances and departed to local hospitals. Did you guys all three go to the same hospitals?
Yes.
You did.
Yep.
So St. Anthony?
Swedes.
Okay. So
because they went in the first ambulance, because at that point I still had the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm just like, there goes my crew.
Yeah.
And I was talking to another lieutenant on the job, and he goes, all of a sudden you just lost every bit of color in your face. And he told me to go sit down. I don't recall this conversation with him. That was just, I think, when the adrenaline wore off, and that's where all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I'm hurt. And
my body hurts.
Yeah. So then next thing I think of is my wife at the time, we were supposed to be leaving for Lake Geneva for the night. Now I'm late getting home. She hears about this fire. My next instinct was, I need to get to my phone and call her and let her know I'm safe, at least.
Yeah.
And by the time I got over to where we parked Engine 2 to get my phone to call, chief of the department was there. She followed me because she saw me just wandering. That's a little foggy for me.
Sure.
And then I just kind of dropped down to my knees, and she's like, that's when she called another ambulance over to our location.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got transported.
Yeah. Can you play the audio now? And put up the next slide.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a MayDay on the scene, fire attack group, one firefighter injured, ladder 5 is the RIT going in to assist on the MayDay. District 1 is going to coordinate that MayDay. I am ordering everyone out of the building. Defensive fire.
10-4 command, MayDay on the scene, fire attack group. Ladder 5 is going to take RIT.
District 1 will coordinate the RIT. Everybody out of the building, so defensive fire only. Everybody out, defensive fire.
And from the fire attack group,
Go ahead, fire attack.
the RIT team bring a backboard up following the working line so we can get her out. Firefighter Nunez.
Copy that. What's her status?
She fell off the ladder, more of maybe an injured back or so.
I copy that. Ladder 1 from command. But I need you to start blowing water on that.
Okay. RIT from fire attack group. Fire attack group, we need a mega mover instead of backboard.
Copy that. Rockers Fire, have the medic on scene go to the alpha side and set their cot up.
Command, the ambulance has to go all the way around the block. It's strapped in by 5-inch.
10-4. Rockers Fire, send me another ambulance right now, please.
10-4 command, sending you another ambulance.
Long left abdomen, left side rib. It's going to go, but
I copy that.
Everything's made it to the down firefighter. We're working on
command from engine 1. Personnel are running low on air. We do need assistance.
Rogers Fire from command. I have a second Mayday, engine 1. Ladder 9 from command.
Command from engine 1. Single Mayday for Firefighter Miller. We're running low on air up here.
I copy, engine 1. Rockford Fire from command.
Go ahead, command.
I need a third alarm. I have 2 Maydays on the scene right now. 1 injured firefighter and a low on-air firefighter from engine 1.
10-4 command, requesting third alarm. 1 injured firefighter. 1 firefighter low on air. 2 Maydays.
Rockford Fire Command, I have engine 4, engine 11, medic 3, and medic 6 all coming for you. I do not have a 4th ladder.
10-4, repeat those.
Your medics are medic 3 and medic 6. Engine 4 and engine 11 are also coming.
10-4.
You can stop that. So that's going to be the entirety of the audio that we're going to use for the episode here. And we went through the photos that we showed, obviously from when the flashover occurred to, the last photo being this command board. And this was just trying to, obviously, keep up or attempt to stay ahead of the situation. But from command, again, for listeners and viewers, we typically think and we practice for a single Mayday. And then another officer calls for a Mayday. Now, I do understand that there is a little bit of lag time and some maybe confusion of which Mayday is the first Mayday versus the second Mayday is attached to the first Mayday. Mm-hmm. However that is, but from this point of view, this side of things where I'm sitting, it sounds like it's two Maydays going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very, and that's, again, you practice for that. Like, get ready for that. And when I look at the three of you in this room with me right now, one of the things that I want to be very emphatic about is stop preparing for one Mayday. Stop preparing for one individual that's low on air or trapped. Be prepared for, because as and I don't know if you can see it, but in the left-hand corner of the photo in red is all of Engine 2. It's all of you three. It's the entire company. So it's Engine 2. It's not just Erica Miller.
Right.
It's not just Chad Call. It's the three of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're all hurt. Let that sink in. You all are hurt.
Yeah.
And I that's what I take from this, as I go, we can do better. I think that at the end of the day, to call this any kind of a success is the fact that, hey, Rockford, I think it's a very prominent church and you didn't lose the structure. But we were injured by the three of you and the traumatic feeling that we are lingered with. And I think I feel it when I, bump into you guys every now and again. And I know I've, had a moment out and about with you, Joel, and I've been, with you and I hanging out at the cave, I'm sorry.
One time
in Byron, which led to this.
And let me just say, how many people are shocked right now? Right.
Go for it. Say it.
Listen.
Say it clear.
I walked into an establishment in Byron to meet my husband and son for dinner before my husband went to shoot trap, and you happened to be sitting there, and really basically right when I walked in, you yelled from me from down the way, "Hey, can we have a drink together?" And, my initial reaction was, fuck no. But the better part of me said, yeah, let's have a drink.
Yeah.
Which turned into a 2-hour conversation that I think for me will bring a lot of closure. And I also think will bring maybe a new friendship
Right.
out of, you know, something that we thought would never be.
No.
Right?
Yes, I will equally sound that alarm, and I'm sounding the alarm for not just between you and I and the four of us here, but those listeners and viewers. When you think that you have been through the worst, and if you have the ability, because let's be honest, the worst of the worst are the situations that go beyond what we've discussed here so far, because all three of you, I'm very aware, you all suffered physical injuries. Mm-hmm. Joel, you remain on the job.
Yep.
But it took you
10 months. And actually, today, I just saw on Facebook Memories, 2 years ago today was my first day back on the job after my injury. So I was off 10 months.
Right.
So it's kind of ironic that we're doing this today also.
Today. Mm-hmm. And I'll go out on this limb and say, you are still on RFD today. You're still on the fire department today. You should be brought out. This is Will's opinion. Mm-hmm. Let's just be clear. You should be brought out at every fire academy from now until you're done to talk about what you went through.
I did.
I agree.
I did, 2 academies ago, and I wanted to go out and talk to the recruits, and it was just before they got to their RIT portion of the academy.
Yeah.
And I went out and talked to them, and it just so happens that the guy that hooked up for your buddy breathing up there on his very first day, he happened to be one of the instructors out there at this point.
Yep.
And so
Great guy.
I called, wonderful guy. I called him up, and I just talked to him and said, you know what, especially during this RIT training, and I just told him how important it is, because this is for us. When shit goes bad and we need help, this is what
it
looks like.
Yeah.
This
is
what
the
it looks
aftermath.
Like. And these two sitting next to me, plus that RIT crew, they are the real heroes. And I think you heard that in my speech. The stag is, I
heard a lot of stuff at the stag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
which led me to
they are my
the ability.
Heroes.
Well, yeah, I can only imagine.
They are the true heroes, in the story. And I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
But, we kind of take that. I imagine you kind of feel the same way, where it's like, no, because that's just what we do. We take care of each other. And if the roles were reversed, you would have been right there.
Absolutely.
Doing the same thing.
100%. Yeah.
How you feeling, Chad?
I might have ducked out of the way if I saw you coming down on me.
Oh, I do get flashbacks, because there's a couple times we're doing drills, or I've been at other fires, and I'm at the base of that ladder, and I'm like, I think I'm going to stand off to the side.
So, as we start to break this down, we're obviously on the other end of the MayDays. And we've given our perception of first arrival, what we think we know, and what we don't know. What you guys are tasked with, what command believes the strategies and the tactics should be, and where we're moving. And as I've already indicated, and this is, it's as much of my confession as it is my attempt for learning to occur. Because we agreed, Erica, that if we were going to do this back in Byron a few weeks ago, that if we were going to do this, then there needed to be a purpose for it.
Yes.
And the purpose wasn't self-validation; it was realization that you can make the best decisions that you think you can make the decisions that you think that are the best, with having still the worst outcomes.
Yep.
Other than, and I think I was about to say this. We know that there are incidents out there, especially flashovers and backdrafts, phenomenons in the fire service that happen where it takes the lives of firefighters right then and there.
Yeah.
And that is those incidents do change the lives of so many. They change the fire department. Look at Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
When, mad respect for the departments that have to go through that. But there are also departments that have to go through the learning process from incidents like this.
Yes, they do.
And you
For
need
sure.
to be open to that, especially when there are several individuals within an organization that push for it and say, what are we doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Or if it does happen again, how can we do it better? How can we do it stronger? How can we make it as tight as we possibly can? It will never be perfect. The fire ground is not perfect.
Sure.
There's literally nothing about the fire ground or the emergency ground that is perfect. It's chaos. We attempt to bring organization to chaos.
Yeah, control chaos.
Controlled chaos.
Yeah.
When you find yourself in the middle of the chaos, that's when things get really, really bad. And that's what we've illustrated here.
We have, and I don't want to speak for these guys, but we were all seasoned firefighters
Yeah.
that day, and none of us saw it coming. And I would sit here and tell you before that fire happened that I would never put myself or my crew in that kind of a position.
Right.
Not in a million years.
Right.
I would be able to see it. I would know it. I've done this long enough. I've trained hard enough. And that was a day, I think, that was unique in situations and got us. It got us.
Everything just
It got us.
lined up.
Yeah. And it can happen to, if it can happen to us, it can happen to anyone.
What were, if you go back through now that we've done this, what were the confusion points? If there were anything that comes to mind or rises to the occasion, sound off.
Like I said, I don't remember, so I got to rely on these two for that.
The one thing that I know, it was just trying to get that to that A side of the building and just getting a line there, because we had trucks all over the place, but it's like we needed a truck to get that working line off, and that took a little bit to get trucks repositioned because, like I said, that day we had said earlier, everybody was out all over the city dealing with all the storm aftermath. So people were coming in, breaking free of all these other calls to respond to this. So, and at that point, already, changing crew members for the oncoming shift. So everything just was like bad timing.
Yeah.
I think you had a lot of tired firefighters too. With those storms, I think a lot of them were up, I can't say that for sure, obviously, but when you come into work at 6:30 and every company is out, it's safe to assume
I'm
that
fresh.
You're fresh. Yeah,
I'm all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You
we're
guys have
tired.
been out.
Yeah, we're tired. We've
Super
been out.
tired.
Yeah.
That's a very great point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of the I guess phrase to say is perfect storm, really.
Yeah.
I mean, because we did. It was different companies coming in, and
I think one of the things that was, for me, first of all, besides being confusing on why the hell it's on an engine,
Oh, come on.
is when we show up on scene and we were asked to develop a fire attack group, that's primarily used for high-rise fires.
Right.
And we were already in our primary role of first in engine, and then we get transferred to, or kind of directed more to go towards the fire attack group. We had hose pulled.
yeah, I pulled the working line at that point.
Pulled, and now we're a fire attack group. So it's in a standard fire attack group. Our roles are completely different. I mean, I'm going in and running
Right.
elevators, but I'm thinking there's no
elevators to run.
Should I go in and go with these guys, or do I stay with my engine? I mean, we heard in the radio transmission, I can engine 2 sitting here with nobody at it. Do you want me to take that over and pump that? It's like, because I wasn't there. I went with the fire attack group. So, but it made sense. There's no sense going into that church pulling a line with us, trying to figure out where we're going or what we're doing until we find out what we're going to
Right.
do.
So
And we're
in investigative mode. And I know I said that, on the radio, but that's just what it was. And it's not unusual to be in investigative mode with a three-man company.
Right.
That we all go in and take a look, because we're investigating. We don't need someone at the pump, and I just think that based on what was on the outside, it was very minimal that we're just going to investigate this thing.
Find out where.
Figure out where it's at.
I think that the investigation in and of itself, and I, just trying to kind of predict, some listeners and viewers might say, well, why would you be investigating if you reported that you had fire? To be clear, the word investigation in this scenario is that it can also mean as directed. I mean, I remember what my own size up, and my first initial commands were to go in, make limited entry, and report back conditions.
Yeah.
So that also can mean the same thing as, hey, I know that I've got something going on, but I don't know exactly what it's going to take to get my hands around it.
Correct.
So I don't want to start pulling off a bunch of hose that I don't know if it's going to be effective or not.
Maybe
I don't want
we
to start
need a pump can.
Exactly, right? It could be
that's
from the smallest thing to the largest thing.
Yep.
But to go in under investigative terms, it doesn't mean that you're going in and just, like winging it.
Yeah.
It means you are going in with the intent to say, okay, it's called recon.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
It's called recon. That's what you're doing to make a decision, in order to gain information, to tell command,
Right.
this is conditions, this is what we think is happening. What are your next orders, if you will?
Yeah. How the hell do we get to this fire?
Exactly.
And especially, and we've said it over and over again, this was a large church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it doesn't go without saying that we've said several times, on all levels, don't make assumptions. Don't, there's assumptions I've already dictated here that I thought initially that the driver of engine 2 would remain with engine 2. But no, I mean, I get it. He just said it. No, but under fire attack group, we go in under high-rise conditions. He becomes the elevator.
Yeah.
These are all these things that people take roles, that firefighters take roles of on firegrounds.
Yeah.
Right? Driving the truck and getting it to the scene is not the only role you do.
Right.
Sitting in the back waiting for the next, task to do as the backseat firefighter, that's not all that you do. You're assessing all the time.
Yeah.
You being in charge that day, you're assessing constantly. What will be the next 30 seconds? What will be the next 30 seconds? And so on and so forth. So there are assumptions made, and I will stress, too many times. And this is a part where command and myself in that command role to be clearer. What is your intention? What is your outcome? What is your intention? What is your expectations? What is your desired outcome?
Yep.
What is your intention? What is your expectation? What is your desired outcome? Repeat it. Just constantly repeat that.
Yeah.
I know the acronyms we all do. CAN report, conditions, actions, needs. Slicer, there's all these acronyms, and they're great. And if you can remember, majority of them or half of them when the shit hits the fan, good on you.
Yeah.
But when the shit is really hitting the fan, which we're about to play here right now, this is what the shit hitting the fan looks like from the outside point of view. Go ahead and roll that. So there's no audio, but we're looking at from the Faust, which is a downtown high-rise in Rockford, Illinois. We're looking at the St. James Church and look at, again, the massive size of this place.
And I have to say, at this point in time, we still were inside and did not have any sense of any of that going on.
Right.
Right.
Not one bit.
And I think what you're going to see is these vent fires snuff themselves out.
Almost as if like the smoke is pulling back in.
Which is, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's about to get real bad.
Yeah.
And you guys, like we say, we got Erica and Chad here in the studio here, and they're up in that attic space right now. Joel sitting across from me, or at the 45-degree angle from the table. He's at the foot of the ladder to the scuttle, and we're just kind of waiting for the conditions to change dramatically, which they do. And again,
see, they've
snuffed themselves out.
They've snuffed themselves out.
And now you'll be able to start seeing like the embers. And
now you'll see all the things.
And by that snuff right there.
There's the embers. And
again, if you're just listening, this was worth a view. You can go to YouTube.
Yeah.
You can go to our YouTube channel, Original Firefighter.
I would encourage any department, any chief, any firefighter, to take a look at this video, because I think it's unique, and I think it's something that is very rare, but it's also something that everyone can take something away from.
I know that it's rare. I've said, I know. No, I'm saying it's rare.
Yeah.
You look across so many NIOSH reports and closecalls.com and all these things. I already know this is rare.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but we don't end up in churches a whole lot. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But
every Sunday, pretty regularly.
Yeah, really? Yeah, you gonna go there?
Well,
let's challenge that one, Chad.
I have to go further and say,
go ahead.
We are insanely well trained. The Rockford Fire Department.
Right.
Our academy is amazing. We are well trained firefighters, and we also see a lot of fire.
Yeah.
Right. So we get to do those things.
Right.
On somewhat of a regular basis. So for something like this to happen to us, I say us, meaning Rockford Fire, I think it's kind of an eye opener. That if it's going to happen to us, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. And that's not arrogance talking. I
don't think so.
No, I know that. I know that's not.
Yeah.
I'm just letting listeners and viewers know. That's not arrogance. We just know what we know.
We know what we know.
Every day that we go out to the academy, we're training. And then every day that we're taking calls, we're kind of training too, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we can literally sign off half of our recruits just on the house fires that we go to almost every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's these things. It's this incident. It's this one. It is. I stand fast on that. I'm not being over dramatic. I'm telling you, it's the one and only time that I ever want to have 3 firefighters injured at any single event ever again. Let's not do another one.
Yeah. Let's
not do this again.
That again.
Let's not do this to the worst of the worst situation that could possibly have happened. That's what we want to prevent, obviously. Mm-hmm. And this brings us to where we're at right now in the studio, and again alluded a little bit by Erica, when her and I were able to hook up late, at the Cave, which is a bar in downtown Byron, and
the Cave's great. If you haven't tried it, go there.
Go to the Cave.
Just trying to get some free drinks.
It's awesome. Yeah, but just coming together and saying it's time to have that conversation. Probably not exactly, I would say, probably not knowing if that would ever actually happen. I felt some encouragement. I give you credit at the Stag for the words that you said, and I felt some encouragement where there may be room for that.
Yeah.
Because I know it's been difficult.
Yeah.
And to those tuning in, everyone that's sitting here suffered both physical and emotional trauma from this event. I know the physical parts of it because, the administrative work that my position had at that time was, is so-and-so checking in, and, are they getting their doctor's appointments done, and are they, are their 517s up to order and all that shit.
Yeah.
And I say it that way, and it sounds egotistical. I don't mean it that way. I know why there are checks and balances to keep accountability. I get it. I throw my hands up in the air and I get it. But what's lost in the translation is, what is the emotional aspect of this thing that's getting lost? I know, Joel, have you been, or are you currently with the peer support team?
Yes. I had just joined the peer support team like 2 months before this fire.
Right.
And next thing I know, I'm in the middle of it, using it in all the debriefings and defusings and everything. So,
Right.
and I'm still currently on the peer support team.
You are.
And we've had some other incidents.
Yeah.
Since then that we've had to deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a current work in progress too, is how do we continue to improve this? And we've, and I take our situation that we've had with this fire and how we can improve that peer support team. Training, classes, we can, to make it better if, God forbid, this ever does happen again. So that's been kind of eye-opening for me, is like, what can we do to make, because we're all there. Well, yeah, we all got hurt, physical therapy, surgeries, all that. But I think the mental issue was a lot worse for probably all of us. Everybody that was there had some kind of mental issue from it. Even people that weren't there. The oncoming crews that are coming there, they're coming to this scene going, holy shit.
Happened?
Yeah.
3 people just went to the
Three
hospital.
people just went to the hospital.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
That's, if I'm oncoming shift and 3 of my brothers and sisters went to the hospital, I am devastated.
Right.
I don't care what their injuries are, as minor or as major as they are. Like, that's devastating.
Right.
It's devastating.
So,
For
yeah,
sure.
I think it's just, and that goes to one of the reasons we're doing this, is we're trying to learn and make it better and improve on it.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that we try and take out of all of this. And that's how we're trying to do it with the peer support team now. So, and it did help, because, I mean, when we all met at Station 2 just a few days after, when was it, 2 days after?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't long.
For the defusing. And it was like, that's the first time since we were all in the hospital. And I think it was like in your trauma room where the 3 of us were together.
Yeah.
So that was pretty emotional and pretty tough. And like,
I'll never forget that.
Yeah. And we did
Not in a
that.
million years. Yeah.
And then everybody just left the 3 of us alone for a few minutes. And, so we could just, hey, we see each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're alive. We're
alive.
banged up, but we're
Yeah.
still here. So
Chad, you were able to come back first to the job, yes?
Right. Yeah. That kind of to come off of Joel's last comment there. I mean, there's a lot of times that
We're drinking in this episode, in case you're watching.
we are. We need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to. We gotta
Sponsored
we
you
gotta
by
get through.
Jack Daniels.
No, there's from that incident, there's some things that I've never ever experienced that I hope I never have to, and I hope that most firefighters never have to. And that one was obviously when we talked earlier about Erica still up in the attic when they knew what was going on, trying to get up there to help her, just not being able to get there quick enough. But the other was shortly thereafter when we were both on the balcony there, and realizing that you have no clue what just happened, but something bad happened, and then glancing over and seeing her motionless, just trying to low crawl over to her to see if there's anything I can do to help. That was a horrible feeling. Like, it was slow motion. The MayDay that was called, I knew it was for us, but I also, in the back of my mind, it was like a TV show. They're calling MayDay. Why are they called MayDay? That's never hear that called. And then again, when we were in the hospital, Erica's room was right next to mine, and some of the sounds that came from that room during her treatment and stuff, and was not good. So those are the things that mentally, that's never going to go. No matter how much counseling you have, how much help you have, but you got to figure out some way to cope and get through it. So it's not fun, and like I say, I hope nobody else has to go through it. But I try to sometimes throw humor into things, and when I get to this point where it's like, this is a bad thing, I kind of then go back to the fact where I was in my room, and my wife, she is the director of women's and children's.
This is actually a great story.
She's the director of women's and children's services at Swedish American Hospital, UW Health. And of course, they called and said, "Hey, Chad was injured. Do you want to come down and hang out with him for a while?" And she really didn't quite understand that's what they told her.
The gravity
just
of
come
it.
hang out with him. So I'm sitting there, and of course, I wasn't too concerned about myself, especially with Erica next door and like I say, some of the sounds and comments and things. But it was during COVID, so everybody had masks on, and my wife, she's on the admin side of things. So, but that day she wore scrubs. So she's down in the ER with a mask on, with a name badge that says RN on it. So, the mayor comes in, of all people. He comes in. He's like, "Is there anything we can do? Can we contact your wife for you or anything?" I'm like, she's right here beside me. And and he didn't know who she was regardless. But then the chief comes in. She goes, "Chad, everything okay? Can we get a hold of your wife?" And finally my wife's like, "Is there somebody else I need to know about?" They all thought she was one of the ER nurses.
I'm outed, son of a bitch. The spirits got me.
She thought there was somebody else that she should call him to, but it's mentally it's something. We literally 4 days ago, we drove by this big church, and she, "Oh my God, look at that beautiful church." It wasn't beautiful to me. It instantly brought back memories.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think when we just took our last break, I was discussing it, that it was almost a week after the fire, I was at a church for a wedding, and I couldn't sit still. It was just difficult to even be in there because it brought back so many memories. I mean, my hair probably still smelled like the smoke from the fire.
Right.
And now I'm sitting in there, and I'm like, I couldn't get out. I was about running the bride and groom over as soon as the ceremony was over to get out of there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was tough.
Why did you have your wedding in a church?
Yes, exactly. Can we do this outdoors, please?
What was, Chad, I believe you got back to work in the fill in the blank couple weeks or 2 months, somewhere in there?
No, I got back in 2 weeks, and the day I got back, we about totaled out one of our ladder trucks. So.
Oh, good Lord. Let's not go down that road. More lessons learned at Original Firefighter.
Yeah. That's another episode.
Another episode brought to you by Basil Hayden. Joel, your injuries were, and you were off the job how long?
So I ended up having 2 shoulder surgeries in my right shoulder. The first one, because with everybody landing on top of me, the surgeon pretty much said,
very wrong of you guys.
I'm right here.
I know.
They said they were really big and really heavy. I don't know.
We're coming down.
So he just pretty much said I just tore everything up in my shoulder.
Yeah.
Because initially it was my back that was bothering me, but then, that was just more muscular. But now having to deal with that, so I had gone through the surgery for it, got out of the sling for a couple weeks, and went to physical therapy, came home, went to go ice it, and I went to reach for the ice pack, and all of a sudden I just felt a pop in my shoulder and just burning down my arm. So the bicep retore. So a few weeks later, back in having another surgery to reattach the bicep, back in the sling for another 6 weeks, and in total, it was 10 months that I was off work.
Yeah.
And countless hours of physical therapy and all that. So, but yeah, it was 10 months.
Well, Erica, it's coming in your way.
I do.
Your turn.
Yeah.
So just to set up here one more time. Obviously, today's episode is all about the journey between just doing the job that we all signed to do and knowing that there's risk. We know that. Anybody that's out there that's going to weigh in and go, well, you knew the risk, you knew the hazards. No shit. So, I challenge anybody and go like, bring it. And actually, if I could actually call for bring some constructive criticism of the episode, because this is 3 hours push where we have an opportunity to talk about something that it can happen anytime, anywhere, in lots of different environments. Yeah, our situation was a church. I've also been on, and I'm sure you all have too, because we have collectively over 100 years of fire service experience here. A century. We're a century old here.
Yeah.
We look pretty damn good.
You guys are old.
But we've all been sent out on assignments on the fire ground to go, hey, go look for X, fill in the blank. Go look for what's going on. Big buildings, big footprint buildings. I mean, I literally have the hair stand up on my neck whenever we go to the churches and the factories, the big ones, and not even high rises. High rises have particular standards to them. So does industry. But when you have life safety involved, everything kind of kicks into high gear when you're trying to protect a lot of people in a vertical building, right?
Yep.
In large footprint buildings where it's either industry, maybe it's commercial, maybe it's sanctuary, church establishment, the codes can get kind of loosey-goosey. Some of these industrial manufacturing processes, like they're just trying to get work done.
Yeah.
They're not focused on fire safety and life safety so much. I'm not trying to disparage them. I'm just saying like that's not their number one drive.
Sure.
And that's when firefighters should kick into the next gear and say, I don't want to assume that they're keeping up with code. I don't want to assume that I know the layout of this building.
Right.
Yep.
I don't want to assume that they haven't changed something since the last time they did a pre-plan here.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to assume that there is a floor in the attic of a church, let alone that there's only maybe 2 or 3 plywood flooring pieces that can be moved around to replace light bulbs.
Yep.
Let alone that we're now at the back end of this conversation where we get to Erica Miller and we say, okay, so here you are, person in charge, and you're up there and you're the last person out of the scuttle hole.
Yeah. Well, I think we could have a whole nother episode
Probably
about the aftermath.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
How did this end up for you?
It ended up with me retiring from the fire department. And that was tough because I wasn't ready. It wasn't my time. But I didn't have a choice. The things that hit me, when they hit hard. And it was something I had never experienced before in my life. So, spending at that time, 23 years in the fire service, like people would ask me on a regular basis, like, how do you deal with, I said, I have this uncanny ability to detach emotionally from these calls that I go on. And for the most part, I don't bring them home. You have a call here and there that is really, really shitty that, is on your mind for a couple of days. But, my response was always, I have this ability to detach. And that got me through my career like nobody's business. And I was good. And even weeks after this fire, I was good. So much so that when we actually had our critical incident debriefing, there was a counselor there. And he sat right next to me. And at the end of it, I thought, this is a really cool guy. He's smart. He knows the stuff. Like, it was great for him to be there. It wouldn't hurt to make an appointment with him to just talk about it because, it was a big deal. But I wasn't physically, I was bruised. I was battered. I was, everything hurt. My head hurt. My neck hurt. My back. I mean, everything. But I was out of the hospital in a day and a half. And I thought, it's not going to hurt to talk to someone about this. And I'll be the first one to admit, like, I'm not a therapy person. Like, I don't need some stranger to tell me how I'm feeling. Right. I know. Crazy. Right. So I made a point with him like the end of August. And of course this happened, early August. And, before I even met with him, I remember going to the fire station. I remember going to Station 10, going through my gear, seeing what I had and what I didn't have, so that when I came back to work, I would be ready to go. I went to Farm and Fleet. I bought some extrication gloves, some driver gloves, because those few things were missing. I went to my locker and put my gear back together because, of course, I sent it out and blah, 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 and all the things. And I put everything together. It had everything. Like, when I came back, when I healed, that I would be just ready to jump on the truck. And it was about 6 weeks in that everything hit. I was riddled with some PTSD. I had some physical injuries that didn't heal. That was my shoulder. The city sent me into Chicago for 2 days for a forensic psychological evaluation in March of 2023. So we're talking August. This fire happened, and they didn't send me anywhere until March of 2023. So in that amount of time, I just had a counselor. And, it was said a few times, like, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. All of a sudden, I had anxiety. I couldn't drive. I thought that, like, people were not stopping at stop. Like, I can't describe to you, like, the craziness that was happening to me, to the person who had always been mentally strong, always been mentally stable, never had an issue in their whole life. All these crazy things were happening to me. And I was trying to get help. Like, my counselor was like, I think you need to be on some medication for some sleep. Like, I think that's going to help, maybe some medication for anxiety, maybe depression, whatever. And I couldn't get help. Like I said, that might be for another episode, but I couldn't get help. So in March of 2023, the city sent me into Chicago for this 2-day evaluation. And basically those doctors said, you have all these things, PTSD, MDD, major depressive disorder, and a host of other things. So I felt validated in the fact that I had felt super crazy. Like, I had felt crazy. Right. Like, I thought I was like a crazy person, in my own skin. Like, I couldn't understand why these things were happening to me. Like, so I had that validation that I wasn't crazy. However, they couldn't help me. They were just there to evaluate me. And then they said, not only do you need help, but you should have got help a long time ago, because the longer these things go untreated, the harder they are to treat, and the more chance of reoccurrence that they have if you do get treated. So I reached out to my fire department because I was trying to get help, meaning what I needed was a psychiatrist to help me, with medication management. So I sent an email, and there were words in there like, desperation. Every road I turned down is a dead end, because I was calling these psychiatrists saying, here's what happened. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to take your case. I was just getting turned down. I was going on my own, like by myself, like, I need help. My therapist says I need help, and I was just getting turned away. So I reached out to my fire department and sent an email. I was like, I don't know what else to do. I'm desperate. Every road is a dead end. And, they never even responded to my email. And that was tough. And I think no one should ever have to go through that. No one should ever have to feel alone, when they work for this department and go through something so significant and then they don't want to help you. But like I said, we could have a whole nother episode on that. So what ultimately ended my career, I did end up having 2 shoulder surgeries. I spent 13 months in physical therapy. 13 months in physical therapy. That was wild. It was tough. The physical part I could deal with. The mental part, I couldn't. And I was the person that thought I could. And when the PTSD hits you, like you all of a sudden don't have control. I had a retired district chief call me when he saw in the pension board meetings that I was, up for retirement. He was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And he said, well, what are you so sad about? And I said, it's not like that. Like this major depressive disorder is like, I can't function. Like I can't get out of bed. I can barely get my kids to school, and then I can barely get them home from school. It was something that was so controlling over me. As much as I hated it, I couldn't control it. It was like it took a hold of my body, my brain, and that was what was deciding what I was doing and what I wasn't doing. That's how I describe depression. It's not like, oh, I'm sad, I'm going to cry because my shoulder hurts. It is something far deeper than that, that I never understood. I never understood it until I was in it. And I also never understood the statistic where more firefighters die by suicide every year than they do in the line of duty. And as tough as this is for me to admit, now I get it.
Right.
I get it. Because even when I needed help, no one was there to help me. Everyone turned me away. Sadly, even my own department, turned me away. And that's that adds to it, right? When you're already suffering,
right,
and then you feel like they're just hanging you out to dry, it's so much worse, right? Obviously, I ended up getting help. I'm doing everything possible. I've done things
if you don't want to give who ended up coming through to get you the help that you needed.
I'll tell you exactly who it was.
Do it.
He was a member of the peer support team. So what I did was I sent our administrative chief at the time an email that said, I can't get into a psychiatrist. I don't know what to do. I am desperate. Every road is a dead end. I sent that email and a couple of weeks went by. So I had texted my district chief, who was Trent Brass at the time, and said, hey, have you heard from, A1? I sent this email. I haven't heard anything, but if there's any way you can help me, I'm here to listen. And he said, actually, no, I haven't, but I'll talk to him. And at about 4:00 that afternoon, my district chief had called me and said, I'm so sorry. Those were his first words. I'll never forget it. And I was like, well, about what? And he said, well, A1 got your email, but he's not going to respond, and there's nothing he can do to help you. Well, I lost it. I mean, I was a crying mess, right? I was like, oh my God.
You were sad.
I was so sad. I mean, I thought, if anyone can help me, this guy is going to help me. He's going to take his chief hat off and help me. And that didn't happen. So I got home that day. I was actually at my daughter's. She plays college softball. She was at a softball game, and that's where I was when I had this conversation. I'll never forget it. And so I got home, and I was really distraught, clearly, like too distraught, like more distraught than I would like to admit, distraught. And I called Brett Beeman because he's on the peer support team, and, he's a good friend. We worked together back in the day, at Station 10, and he had always checked in on me. And I called him in a fit, like a crying, messy, horrible fit, and said, you know, all the things. I said, I'm just trying to get help. And he's like, I am so sorry this is happening to you. And what he did was he sent me a postcard of the Greg Lindmark Foundation, which is amazing, which got me to a psychologist. And he got me in right away within a week. So I went and saw him. I spent about an hour with him, telling him, you know, the short version of my story and all the things that had happened. And he said, I can't help you. Because he's a psychologist, right? They don't prescribe medication.
Right.
And so I left there like, oh my God. But he did say, I'm going to find help for you. So he called me a couple days later and said, hey, there's this doctor in town. He's a psychiatrist. I've called his office. He knows you're going to call. He is ready for your phone call, and he's going to take care of you. And I thought, oh, this is amazing. Great. So I called the office, and this wonderful secretary answered the phone. Her name is Nicole. I'll never forget her. She answered the phone. She said, how this goes is you give me a short version of your issues, and then the doctor will decide if they will, you know, take you on or not. Because apparently this is a thing in the psychiatrist world, is they can pick and choose what patients they want. Yeah.
That's crazy.
They can pick and choose. So I gave her the short version. And by the way, I also said, we're billing my insurance. This has nothing to do with workman's comp. I mean, obviously it does. But right,
you were prepared to take care of it if you had to.
100%.
Because you were actually trying to find help.
Well, I was just trying to find help. And so many that I had called prior and said this is a workman's comp deal, they're like, we're not doing it. So I just started calling and saying I have Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance.
Yeah.
But when you're telling your story, it's work related. So for whatever reason, that turns a lot of people off. So I gave her my spiel, the short version, and she goes, okay, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You know, I'm so sorry this has taken so long and all the things. And this is now May of 2023. So she's like, I'm going to call you. I'm going to talk to the doctor. I'm going to tell him your story. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. She calls me back. I'll never forget it. I was sitting in the Highlander parking lot in Cherry Valley by the mall. And she calls me back and she says, Erica, I'm so sorry, but the doctor is not going to take you as a patient. And I just lost it.
Wow.
I just lost it.
So how many times did you get turned away?
Oh, more than a dozen.
Did they give you reasons?
The reason is they thought that I needed a higher level of care than just him because he's not available for 24 hours.
So like you need to see the Pope.
Literally. Yeah, like.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing over here. I mean, your story, what you've shared is craziness.
It's insane.
It is.
It's insane.
And there's a purpose for why I worked the room the way I did, because I knew that when we got to what you had to say about things, you did end up pensioned off. Yes.
And
retired. You never came back to work.
I never was able to come back to work. What I will say to that is, you know, when you are hurt when you're hurt on the job, you only have 12 months to file for a duty disability injury. Well, physically alone, I didn't have surgery on my shoulder until June of 2023. Well, guess what? I was never going to make it back by August of 2023. So
wow.
I was doomed from the beginning.
Right.
I mean, it was almost like I never had a chance. So she says to me, doctor's not going to take you as a patient. And of course I lost it. And I was like, it's okay. Actually, this is not the first time I've heard this. And she goes, well, I'm not finished with you.
I'm not okay with this.
I'm not okay with this. She goes, I will find someone for you. And Nicole, if you're out there and you see this, I would love to meet you because She did. She found a psychiatrist for me in Rockford that took me with my Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, and I saw him on August 1st of 2023, almost 1 year to the day of the fire. Yeah. But
when you kept telling that story, I'm thinking, okay, the next person's going to have the answer, and
no one had the answer. So when I say I understand that statistic now, like I didn't ever want to understand it, but man, now I get it. And I think what is the hardest for me to accept is there's so many people out there that say, well, if you need help, all you have to do is ask.
See, I think this is going to come to our final message. No, seriously, keep going with this, Erica, because that is true. Because this is the message that we end up with, and I know this has been a journey, and that the whole thing has been built this way in this episode to be called Anatomy of a Church Fire MayDay, was we were intent to dissect it from top to bottom to understand that veterans in this room went off on a fire search and ended up where we're at today, where everyone has healed from physical wounds to a degree, but there are definitely emotional concepts that we're still dealing with. Yeah. Because why else would we be sitting here talking about or investing our time in it?
Yeah.
If it weren't for the idea that I'm not okay with everything that's gone on in the past. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that everything has to be perfect. We can live with imperfection.
Sure.
Most firefighters do. With incompleteness. I mean, that's really the whole job is, you do something, you put a fire out, but that's not the complete story. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's happened to the last people that you helped, and, did they recover, and did everyone, get their belongings covered, which probably didn't happen.
Right.
But to your story is you didn't get yourself covered by those who said, well, just ask for help.
Just ask for help. That's the thing. Just ask for help. And when I did, it wasn't there.
Right.
And so then I even felt more crazy, right? Then I even felt like, well, no one wants to help me, so it must not be that bad. But that was the wrong thing to think. And then you go to these doctors that the city sends you to, and they say, yeah, you're really fucked up. And you should have got help a long time ago, because now you're going to be even more fucked up because you didn't get help. That's a tough thing to hear. And I'll tell you this is that I did read that report from that 2-day forensic psychological evaluation. And that was it was the toughest thing I've ever read, that you're not whole, right? Something's wrong with you, because my whole life I've been great. Even with 20 some years in the fire service, I was rocking this thing. I got it. And then you read all these things that are wrong with you. There's 4 reports out there from the pension board doctors that I've never seen and never read. So the diagnosis is, I don't even know all of them. My doctors do.
Right.
But I don't. Because that one report was really tough to read, let alone I don't want to read 4 more. But I will say this, I went on many calls, on the northeast side of Rockford in these big houses, and, this family crying saying, my husband is suicidal, and, he's got the BMW in the garage and has all the things. I was, of course, always compassionate as a paramedic, always. But, in the back of your mind, you think, how can it be that bad? That you got this family that loves you, you got this great house, you clearly have this great job. Yeah. What are you so sad about?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I feel now like a jackass for ever having those thoughts in the back of my mind, because you never know what people are really going through. And I told this to you, and I'll say it again. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. when I look in the mirror, I see someone I don't recognize to this day. Am I getting better? Yeah. Am I doing a lot of things to get there? Yeah. I think that's for another episode, because you wouldn't believe the things I've done to try to get better. But it's tough. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, evidently so. I mean,
Yeah.
the entire conversation, and as we kind of bring this to a close, I will say this emphatically: I appreciate the journey, the conversation, which is long and arduous, and but it has to be. There's no way to have this conversation in a blink of an eye. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
And if you hang in there for the entire conversation, you're going to get something out of it. I remember having the PIRs that I would do. Mm-hmm. Too many. And I would say this. I would say, I got a lot of shit to say, but I would just ask if you would just take away 3 things. So same thing here. If you're listening or viewing, take away 3 things. I don't even care if they're sarcastic. And I don't care if it's, I'm just going to do the opposite of what these guys did.
Right.
It's like, fine, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I guarantee that there is somebody out there that's resonating with what you're saying, Erica, when we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I was a part of that. I was a part of it. 100% I was a part of the admin that said, well, if you need help, you just ask for it. And honestly, the entire fire service is doing that right now. We went to FDIC recently, and I can tell you that the dominant conversation was mental health and wellness for firefighters.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. Everybody's joining in. Everyone is jumping off the high dive going, how do we help?
Yeah.
How do we stop firefighters from committing suicide?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because back in the early, in the 20 teens, as I've referenced several times in the show, is that in the 20 teens, that's when we started to see that we were seeing a trend of more firefighters were committing suicide than they were dying on the job.
I never understood
And to go
that.
to go one step further, the number one killer in the fire ground is cardiac arrest. Okay, so stop being fat. Put down the fork. Go get on the treadmill.
That's really hard to do as a firefighter.
It is. It's very tough.
Really hard.
It's very tough.
You know how do people see that you see retired that lose weight?
You're right.
I mean,
Right.
mine has a lot to do with anxiety.
Yeah,
but
you all gain a little bit of weight. You lose it when you retire.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
But to go and a little bit of tongue in cheek there. Don't take it too serious. But go one step further and say, this goes back to the mental struggle. The final message is, don't wait until the actual ceiling is falling on you, as in the sanctuary. Mm-hmm. Don't wait until you're actually jumping out this tiny little scuttle hole trying to save your ass on a call that, hey, again, we made some assumptions and we thought all would go well. Did we? Well, I know I did. I know that you thought, hey, it's the end of my shift.
Oh, listen.
Everything's going to be fine.
If we would have thought things were crazy up there, we never would have been up there.
Exactly.
For sure. I mean, seasoned firefighters,
So, final thoughts. Erica, couple last thoughts. I'm just going to go over real quick. Erica.
What I have to say is, my name's Erica Miller. If you're struggling, find me, because I've probably been there. The other thing I want to say, and I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, is I had a pretty significant head injury. And a lot of things came because of that head injury afterwards. And I remember asking Chad specifically, was my helmet on my head? And he said, yes, it was. And I want to say to every firefighter out there, wear your chin strap. If you hear nothing from this conversation, because when you have to dive out of an attic scuttle hole at 20 feet above, I always had to wear my chin strap because I have a small head. I could never ratchet it enough. I know most firefighters do not do that, and I get it. But I truly believe that was one of the things that saved my life, because even in the hospital, the right side of my head hurt so bad. So I thought for sure it had fallen off because whatever I hit, it was hard. And that wasn't the case. Yeah, that wasn't the case. Sorry, Joel.
You couldn't have fallen softer.
I know, but I truly believe had I not, when you dive out of a attic hole and you don't have your helmet strap on, guess what? It's going to come off first and foremost, and then your head's going to hit all the things.
Yeah.
It hits his air tank, you're gone. Yeah. We're not sitting here having this conversation. I know it's a silly thing, but I've been a firefighter a long time, and for a while I didn't wear my chin strap either. But here again, it's one of those little tiny things that could save your life. So do it. That's my 2 cents.
Joel?
Well, I would have to say that, a lot of the second half of this is about like all the, not so much the physical, but the mental. And it is okay because as a group, we're always the ones that just stuff it down, just keep pushing it down. Yeah. Well, you can only stuff so much. So go out and get help before you really need it, before you realize that, oh shit, this is bad. Before your family explodes, before things come crumbling down, go get that help. It's, I go to the same.
Do you think the message might be before you think you need help, should you be out there getting routine therapy?
Absolutely.
100%.
Back in the day when we all first came on, there was that stigma. And I do see that in the fire service improving because, like you said, FDIC, there's a big emphasis on that.
Huge. And
so I think we're starting to lose that stigma. It's still there. But if you don't go out, if you're going out every single day, especially on busy departments, and you're seeing the things that we do and the things that we do, it's going to affect you. Even if you think I'm fine. But you need to go out and seek that help. Whether or not it's just sitting around talking to somebody else on the job or going to go and seeing a professional. Because I had an appointment this morning. I see the same counselor as Erica does.
He's great.
He's phenomenal.
By the way. Yeah.
And I've referred quite a few people on this job to go see him. He could probably just quit his practice and just work full-time for Rockford Fire.
Literally. Literally.
But he is good. And he's helped me recognize a lot of things that, especially from this incident, that I was doing wrong. Well, not wrong, but I just didn't know a better way of dealing with it. Mm. And just go get that help,
But here again, go get that help. But where is it? Mm-hmm. Where, it's easy for us to say, but having lived, because I needed a higher level of care.
Right.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but there has to be help available. It has to be there. Like these departments, teach these skills in the academy. No one talked about mental health in my academy.
Right.
You know what mental health was? Going to the Latham West.
Mm-hmm. Getting off
when
shift.
when we were done.
And now it's coming on the original Firefighter podcast.
Wow. But I mean, it's not just get the help, but here's where to get the help.
Yeah.
I want to work with these fire departments. If you're listening, talk to me because I need you to develop a protocol.
Sure.
An SMO, a procedure, a policy that when you have something as big as this kind of an event happen, where it's going to affect these people on a deeper level, that you have something in place for these people. Because I lived in hell for a long time. Actually, I'm still living in it.
it comes home quick is what I'm taking from this right now. It comes home real quick.
When it hits and you have no control, it is the worst feeling I could ever describe to you in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and as a mom and as a wife, you know, like I said earlier, I look in the mirror and I don't even recognize who this person is. I want to be a better mom. You know, I'm not the best version of myself right now. I'm not the best wife right now. And that is a tough thing to come to grips with. That's a tough thing. And I want to look in the mirror and recognize who this person is and be the best mom and be the best wife, be the best daughter. And I haven't been that for a long time. And that's a tough thing. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to add to any of that other than the fact that I just want to thank you, Erica, for we've talked. I know you've talked to other people a lot more depth, but you know, thank you for your stamina in this, because so many people, and obviously the statistics show it, don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
And you know, with Will talking to us about, you know, doing something like this, I think, man, if we can just one person hears any of this, you know, if one person jotted down your phone number and you get a call,
yeah, one person,
right?
Yep,
right.
That makes this whole thing worth it.
So thank you for your stamina on this, and hopefully you take something out of this to make it better. Unfortunately, your career as a firefighter, you know, as you said, is done.
Yeah.
But maybe what it did is open up a new chapter for you.
Yeah.
To go help a lot more people than what you did on the fire department.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. I need to drink more. No, that's not the answer. The answer, I don't have an answer. I am happy that we were able to facilitate this conversation. The bigger picture for us at Original Firefighter is how are we able to bring realism to the situation beyond what firefighters themselves already know.
Yeah.
Those that are listening and viewing, if you're a firefighter, a paramedic, a police officer, any type of first responder, you already know half of the conversation that we're having here today.
Yeah.
You could fill in, today we talked about a church fire. Tomorrow it's a warehouse. The next day it's wildland fires. Mm-hmm. You know, there's always something that's facing us as first responders. And we'll say it as loud as we've said it already. We signed up for it. We understand that. We're not bitching about that. I think, Erica, you drove the nail home when you talked about how many times that you looked for help and you were, for whatever the reasons were, either looked over, turned away, or sideswiped to something and told to go in another direction, which probably was the most confusing spider web that you had to navigate. And I can only imagine how much that has to have sucked. However, I can also imagine that there's got to be somebody out there, maybe several of you listening and viewing, that you also have been snagged by that same spider web, trying to figure out, how do I get help? First and foremost, we want to say this. The Rockford Fire Department does have a peer support team, and many, many departments are actively participating in their own peer support groups. They're beginning to create their peer support teams as we talk on this show. And if you're not doing that, we encourage it. There's ways of doing that, and we encourage you to look into how to establish those peer support teams. If we need to go one step further, please remember the text 988. That is the suicide prevention hotline. If you feel that you are in danger to yourself, or that there's a loved one that fears for you and what you might do to yourself and not others, you can text 988 for the suicide prevention hotline and seek help right away. The biggest thing that I want to say is that I am grateful to have the relationship that I have with you three. And for all the firefighters that arrived on that scene that day, I believe that it was 49 firefighters from Rockford Fire Department, as I recall it. And as I said, there's a lot of documentation that's sitting under my left hand right now that spells out that when shit goes wrong, you're on the hook for a lot of things. As incident command, accountable for firefighters and their safety, not just their physical safety, but the well-being, the mental side of what's going to happen after the event, after the discharge from the hospitals, after the reports have been made, after you've done all the things to hopefully feel like, okay, this is the best it's going to get. But what I know now, and it's taken us, we're coming up on 3 years. August this year of 2025 would be 3 years since the date of August 8th of 2022. And it's taken us this long for us to collectively come together like this and do what we're doing right now. And I am grateful for that. I am grateful to have this opportunity with you, Erica, with you, Joel, and with you, Chad, and feel like there's something that we can connect with in the best way possible out of the worst situation. I don't want to undersell that. I don't want to oversell that. I just want that to be an even keel message that says there's probably more stuff to talk about. And I'm willing to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I know that on August 8th of 2022, there were 3 incredible firefighters that walked into a church together, and you all came out changed. You survived a flashover. It was a flashover. The evidence is there. The video is there. The timeline is there. This is a flashover of a magnitude that is magnificent and terrible at the same time. What happened at St. James Church is a reminder to all of us that we don't always get second chances. And right now we are the second chance sitting in this room. If you're watching or listening to this and you've hung in there for this long episode, there is the second chance, and it's sitting right here, right now. And we've been talking about that for a long time, about 3.5 hours, and we're getting ready to wrap this up. But the whole point is this: don't stop the conversation. Keep it going. Keep challenging people at the department, at your fire department. Challenge each other to say, well, what if this happens? And then when you have that figured out, then say, well, what if that happens? And go one step further to almost so you can't even think of the failure that you might encounter if you didn't think about a situation that you weren't prepared for. We were prepared for this, if you will. We were. As a fire department, we go to large events. We go to a lot. I think the second to the last year in the department, I burned down 3 city blocks.
Is there something to be said
that is
about
not
that?
a good track record. I'm not going to lie. But we prepared for this in Rockford because we knew that we had the ability to have these major incidents. But it's the people. We are not ready to understand. We haven't prepared yet all the way that people are going to suffer after the fact in hard, hard ways.
Yeah.
So I'm here to have that conversation. I really appreciate you, Erica Miller. I really appreciate you, Joel Bradford. I really appreciate you, Chad Callison. I appreciate your courage to do the thing that you did on August 7th and August 8th, and to do the thing that you're doing right now. I really appreciate you. And to say this as a closing, as always, as Original Firefighter, be safe. This has been the Original Firefighter Podcast. Thanks for watching and listening. Tune in each week on Wednesdays for a new episode. Like and follow us on all social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel today.